Good evening, and thank you for being here. To those in person, and for those who are watching live streaming, I will ask our board secretary to take a roll call vote to determine a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. President Craighead?
Here.
Member Benitez?
Here.
Member Lopez?
Present.
Member Miller?
Here.
Member Otto?
Here.
And Student Member Aguilar?
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. And at this time, I will ask our student representative from Poly, Mr. Tim Nguyen, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
For those of you present in the room, the board appreciates and supports community input at our meetings. During the meeting, there will be time for the public to comment on matters on the agenda and matters not on the agenda. For those who have not already submitted a request, we have provided forms here by our board secretary. If you wish to speak during the meeting, please fill out a form indicating your name and the agenda item you wish to address. The board has been meeting in closed session regarding matters listed on today's agenda. The board took action on the following items. Item 3.1, the board voted 5-0 to expel 3 students and readmit 1 student. The expulsions, ID numbers 7419, 1616, and 3501, are in compliance with Education Code Section 48915, Subdivision C. The students are recommended to be considered for a suspended expulsion with an opportunity to attend another school within the district. The 3 students will be eligible to apply for readmission after the end of the fall semester of the 2024-2025 school year. The readmission is for student ID number 3865. Additionally, in item 3.3, the board voted 5-0 to approve a number of appointments listed on the agenda. To make some formal announcements, I will turn it over to our superintendent, Dr. Baker.
Thank you. Coming out of closed session today, where a number of recommendations were made and approved for administrative assignments, it is my pleasure to give a little background and then to turn it over to our team to make announcements about this evening's promotions. This is the time of year when many decisions are made for our school administrative positions. This meeting and the next meeting will be both the appointment of principals and assistant principals and central office positions. And so tonight before you are several promotions, both to central office and to schools. Significant consideration has been taken about the candidates who have been recommended tonight. They have participated in equity leadership talent development programming to prepare them for this moment in their career as promotees. And there's tremendous support provided to schools who are going to experience both the transfer of principals as well as the promotion of new principals. And so for public who are watching, as well as those in the room, as I am passing to Mr. Moskovitz to begin to share the promotions for tonight, this information is posted on the front page of our website, and that includes both newly promoted administrators as well as the transfer of administrators from one assignment to a lateral assignment. And so we'll begin tonight with Mr. Moskovitz sharing from the Early Learning Office, and then he will pass to Mr. Zaid and back to him for additional assignments.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. So I'm proud to announce the names of 2 promotees in our Head Start office. So Veronica Mejorado from teacher TOSA and Head Start to Early Learning Center Manager, and Indra Cervantes from head teacher to Early Learning Center Manager. Mr. Zaid.
And I am proud to announce Nicole Reyes from Administrative Assistant in HR to Principal of Cleveland Elementary, Nicole Kelly from Administrative Assistant Elementary K-8 Office to Principal at Kettering Elementary, Jondella Faulkner, who is here tonight, from Program Specialist to Principal at King Elementary. Jenny Salazar, from Assistant Principal at Poly to Principal at Riley Elementary. And Viviana Espinosa, from Assistant Principal at Lafayette to Principal at Willard Elementary.
All right, and I am happy to announce some secondary promotions on behalf of Dr. Camarino. He is at the CAMS graduation as we speak, so I will announce these on his behalf, and I think I see some folks in the audience for this as well. So, from Assistant Director to Principal of Jefferson Middle School, Renee Shipman. And from Vice Principal at Wilson High to Principal at Milliken High, Stacy Alexander. And I should say Dr. Renee Shipman and Dr. Stacy Alexander. Super congrats to them. And then we have a promotion to a director as well. Gonzalo Moraga, who is principal at McBride High School, will be coming into central office as a director principal supervisor. Those are our promotions for tonight. And again, all other lateral or transfer moves are posted on our website as we speak.
Thank you, everyone. And on behalf of the board, I'd like to congratulate all of those who have been promoted, all of those who will now be taking on a new assignment. Welcome. In fact, if you're here and your name was called, let's have you stand so we can give you a round of applause. Thank you. In case not everybody's aware, these decisions are made, the board votes in closed session, and then phone calls are made. So these people who are here in the audience tonight who just stood up, they just found out. So this is new and wonderful, and we appreciate everyone for being willing to take on a new role. Okay, so we will move on to the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? We'll do a roll call vote.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Member Lopez?
Aye.
Member Otto?
Aye.
President Craighead?
Aye.
Member Benitez?
Aye.
Member Miller?
Aye.
Student Member Aguilar?
Aye.
Preferential vote. Aye. That passes 5-0.
Thank you. And now I would like to formally introduce our student representative from Poly, Tim Nguyen. So welcome.
Good evening. I would like to begin by expressing that I'm honored to be here speaking in front of all of you while representing Long Beach Polytechnic High School. My name is Stetchung Nguyen, or Timothy Nguyen, and I'm a senior in the PACE program, and I have been in ASB for 6 semesters. And this spring semester, I currently serve as the ASB Vice President. ASB at Long Beach Poly High School is a rewarding experience, and I started off in ASB as a commissioner of the PACE pathway and moved on to the role of commissioner of organization and now ASB VP. Through these positions, I have learned to communicate effectively while organizing school events in a timely manner. Not only have my leadership skills improved, but I've also made stronger connections and friendships with members in ASB. At the beginning of this spring semester, we held the Intercultural Fair, which was one of the most participated and popular events at Poly, and it celebrated the many cultures present at Poly. This event was organized by Isaiah Ang, the Commissioner of Organization, who had also previously organized the Homecoming Fair during the fall semester. This semester's fair theme was Poly World Tour and hosted 74 clubs selling a multitude of cultural items such as birria ramen to spam musubi. In March, we held the Festival of Gardening and Butterflies, led by Yodi Maldonado, our Commissioner of Inclusion. She worked with Garden Club to organize over 60 tables with various topics ranging from worms to bamboo. We also hosted organizations such as the LA River Rover, Long Beach, and Long Beach Water Department. It was a successful event that taught students about the different aspects of gardening, and students were able to take free items such as plants, agua frescas, and flower bracelets. During the same month, we held our second camp for Poly North at Big Bear, directed by Mr. Schock and Mr. Puth. This human relations camp provides sophomores with experiences such as cabin talks and outdoor activities. in order to create bonds with new people and strengthen the bonds that already exist while making lasting memories. In April, ASB hosted many events. To start the month, our Commission of Community Outreach, Jamie Amaro, hosted Polly's first indoor soccer tournament to help raise money for our Light the Night fundraiser. By the end of our fundraising month, she was able to raise nearly $2,000 to donate to Leukemia and Lymphoma Society for cancer research. Also in April, our Commission of Welfare, Sarah Ning, coordinated with Cedars-Sinai to host the spring semester blood drive. We had over 150 people signed up to donate blood, and Cedars-Sinai was able to collect about 85 plants of blood, which is able to save 260 lives. ASB ended April with our annual book fair at the Town Center, Barnes & Nobles. This wonderful event was headed yet again by Yodi Maldonado and Sandra Sang. This was a 2-day ASB fundraiser, helping us with funding the various events we hold throughout the year. At Barnes & Nobles, we had posters presenting our academic pathways, extracurriculars, and athletic programs while providing fun activities for kids. Through Yodi's and Sandra's hard work, ASB was able to raise over $1,000. May was just as busy for Polly as April. As part of our AAPS celebrations in May, we had multiple rallies hosting groups such as PI Club, Soul of K-Pop, otherwise known as SKP, Starstruck, Kai Vegan Club, all of which celebrated the diversity of the Poly campus in their own unique ways. Also in May, our Model United Nations organization held their conference, which is a huge success as Poly hosted over 500 students from the other schools outside the district. Poly was able to boast its beautiful and historic campus while hosting an event that discussed various topics that included real-world issues. Lastly, our ASB will have a change in leadership for our ASB cabinet fall 2024. Riley Ignacio as ASB president, Isaiah Ang as ASB vice president, Eli Samaniego as ASB secretary, and Eric Nove as ASB treasurer will be stepping up to the cabinet positions to guide the fall 2024 ASB class and the activities at Poly High School. These are all the recent events at Poly that have defined our spring 2024 semester. A big thank you to Mr. Puth, our administration, and the current ASB, as traditions at Poly would not have been possible without them. Go Jackrabbits.
So Tim, are there people here who are here to support you that you'd like to acknowledge? Maybe somebody in the audience?
Yeah, I have Mr. Salas with me, our principal, and Annette, our ASB ASB president, sorry.
I see how you just promoted yourself.
Right.
That's wonderful. Well, it's always great to hear from our students, and forgive me if I missed it. Are you a junior this year or a senior?
I'm a senior this year.
So senior.
Yeah.
So we like to ask our seniors what your plans are for
So next year
year
I'll be studying health and human science at USC.
at USC. Okay.
Right
Can you say that school one more time? I couldn't hear you. Just a little louder.
University of Southern California.
Yeah. Mr. Miller is saying that for the benefit of Dr. Benitez, who is an alum of UCLA. I'm sorry. That's right. But USC, you say?
There's actually 3 alums.
3 alums. Oh, 3. Not to belabor the point, but, okay. Thank you so much for being here. You're welcome to stay, depending on if you have any finals or something to study
No
for.
finals.
Oh, and before you go, we're going to take a moment to do a picture, so we're going to ask you to come right over here and join us. We'll just take a brief pause for a photo. Okay. Next, we have the pleasure of acknowledging some retirees. So we will start with Mr. Mr. Otto. And what we'll do is we'll have the retirees come up, and then one by one, we have something nice to say about you. You come around, we shake your hands, and then you'll each have an opportunity to speak if you'd like. And then we'll do pictures. Okay, Mr. Otto.
Thank you. But to be clear, I'm not retiring. Okay. So our first retiree is Susan Werner. Susan has celebrated 35 years of service for the Long Beach Unified School District, and she's retiring as a first grade teacher at Los Cerritos Elementary School. She has been praised for being a prominent figure at Los Cerritos, who will be greatly missed. She is loved by students and parents for her kind heart and her ability to connect with her students over the years. She makes learning fun, but also sets high standards for those who step into her classroom and always goes above and beyond for her students and community, and she's done that for her entire career. So we're sorry that you're leaving us, but you've given us great service and great service to the students of the Long Beach Unified School District. So thank you very much. She's gonna speak. She's gonna
Say
speak.
now.
Oh, okay. The floor is yours.
Go ahead. Oh, I just want to say it's been a privilege working in Long Beach. It's been 39 years of teaching, but I've been in Long Beach for 35, and my kids all grew up in Long Beach. And I've always wanted to be a teacher, so it's been exciting to do what you love. So thank you, and it's been great.
Thank you. And next, we will have Ms. Lopez.
Yes. Next, we have Judy Kosher. Please come forward. And Judy has served the district for 36 years. She's retiring as a first grade teacher from Los Cerritos Elementary School. Both of them are retiring, yes. And she's praised for dedicating her entire career to the LBUSD, and to the Los Cerritos school community. With over 36 years of serving students, parents, and the community, she's made a lasting impression of positivity and progress within the school community. She's also praised for setting high expectations for her students and setting a great foundation of learning while also being a caring teacher with a warm heart. And please accept the certificate for your 36 years of dedicated service to LBUSD and your lasting contributions to the lives of thousands of students.
I don't know if I can top my work partner. Susan and I have been in the same grade level at the same school for 24 years. It's, okay, breath. I do want to say thank you to Long Beach Unified. I've been blessed to work in the district for so long. It's a place that I've loved. I've had fun at my job. My husband has told me, you don't go to work, you go to play. I have also been blessed that I student taught at Los Cerritos in 1987, and then long-term subbed there in kindergarten. I have been there since. That was my home, it's my family, it's my school. It's where I've been my whole career. Besides previous working 3 years at a private school, which is 39 years of teaching. Can you guess we're about the same age? But I am just honored because Long Beach is the cutting edge of the school districts. And being there 36 years, I've seen it all. So thank you so much. I'm going out having fun. Thank you.
That's so nice to hear. Next, Mr. Miller.
All right. Well, I have the esteemed honor of congratulating Miss Pamela Bailey. Please come forward. So today we are celebrating 24 years of service, retiring as a nurse at Adams and King Elementary. She's being praised for providing health care to students based on their needs and sharing health resources with families to enhance the health and welfare of our children. And for also being a strong advocate for students' needs and always maintaining a positive and pleasant attitude when interacting with staff, students, and parents. Please accept this certificate for your 24 years of dedicated service to the Long Beach Unified School District and your lasting contributions to the lives of thousands of students. Thank you.
As you know, I'm Pamela Bailey, and I had the pleasure of coming in under Regina Clifton, who was an excellent advocate for students and for her nurses. I'm currently under Rose McViver, who also is an advocate for our students and for our nurses. I'm thankful to have worked for Long Beach Unified School District the time that I have, and as a nurse, I've been a nurse over 44 years. But when I first came to Long Beach, there was approximately 100 nurses. In 2008, 2009, there was a big layoff, and we were left with about 33 to 35 nurses. Currently, we have about 45.9 FTEs, credentialed district nurses, and a mixture of 52 FTEs of LVNs and health assistants that our district and agency provided. In order to be a school nurse, you have to have a California registered nurse license, you have to have a BS or a BA, and you have to be credentialed by the state of California. In our district, we serve 63,000 students. We have 84 schools and a unique student population. We have fewer students, but we have a higher number of fragile students. with specific medical needs. School nurses' roles are crucial in meeting these needs. To name a few, we have over 209 diabetics. We have catheterizations, about 11. GT2 feedings, 57. Those that have seizures are 751. Anaphylaxis are severe allergies that need EpiPens, 595. And those that have asthma or respiratory-related issues, over 7,063. In my hand here, I have just a synopsis of the benefits of a credentialed school nurse and the need of her. And there are also some other listed health problems that are in our schools. There's one for each of you. Due to COVID, the last 2 years, we've been blessed to have over approximately 20 extra nurses that were contracted that will be leaving us this year, after this year. And they were truly a tremendous help during that time. We realize and recognize that education is the base setting. However, it is essential to identify the student's health and medical needs. The survival rate of premature babies due to medical advancement now allows medically fragile students to be placed in our school settings and needs that need medical procedures on site. Just today, when the children, the 5th grade students had gone on a field trip, the parents didn't make us aware that the student was allergic to the water of the beach, and we had to call the paramedics because she has an allergic reaction. So as you see, we can't be everywhere, but we need to be in the designated places at the designated time. Long Beach Unified, you need us, and we need you. Thank you for the opportunity that I've had to work with the students, the staff, and I'm so glad to have some of my colleagues here with us tonight. And just remember, as you're making your budget, think about us, because we make a difference.
Thank you. And now it's my honor and pleasure to recognize Sharice Williams Robinson. So I'll ask her to come up. And we are praising you for developing a caring, comfortable, and supportive learning environment while encouraging constructive and productive interactions among students. And you always refine your daily learning targets to guide daily instruction and incorporate real-life context in your lessons. So please accept the certificate after you make your way around for your 27 years of dedicated service to the Long Beach Unified School District and your lasting contributions to the lives of thousands of students.
First, I wasn't going to say anything, but I'll have to just give a few words, because I also, too, want to make sure that I acknowledge somebody who's here with me today, and that's my daughter, who is a product of Long Beach Unified School District. But of my 27 years here, oh, thank you. My 27 years here, when I first started, she was in diapers running around the fields at that time when we had the U-shape at Cabrillo High School. That second year, I came after it was Juan Rodriguez, before it was, was West High School. But she was there with me at my journey at the very beginning and went all the way through to graduate 10 years ago. She'll be celebrating her 10-year anniversary, or her class reunion at Lakewood High School, where I'm ending my tenure. So that's kind of ironic. We just come around full circle for that. But of the 27 years I was here, I've been teaching for over 30 years. And as ironically, as I conclude about 35, 36 years of education altogether, and I include my student teaching of that time, where I started my student teaching at Jefferson Middle School. I didn't end up at Long Beach Unified. I spent 5 years in other school districts and then end up coming back and where I spent the rest of my tenure, and I really enjoyed it. So while I was here, I just want to say I was honored to be able to be a champion of STEAM and to be a champion of Project Lead the Way and get that going in all of our schools. And because of my love for math and for our students and our students to be able to get the best, I really believed in the what Long Beach Unified believed in, and wanted to make sure that, again, every student, had that opportunity. So as I wore that badge, I make sure that when we went out and did our MESA, that we turned out that while I was running the MESA program, Cal State Long Beach had to put a Long Beach Unified rule in, that I couldn't bring busloads of kids in anymore because we won everything, and the other school districts were upset that Long Beach Unified was winning everything. And so I'm proud of that legacy, and I'm proud of that. And as I talk about my daughter back here, again, like I said, she came through the Long Beach Unified School District, and I'm proud to say that she's going to be graduating with her master's degree this December from Cal Baptist in health sciences. And again, so I thank all of those teachers at, where'd you go? Hudson, at Gompers, and at Lakewood, who were very much part of this journey along with me. And I thank all of you guys for the opportunities that I've had here.
So before our retirees leave, I'm going to have you come up here, and we're going to take a pause to do pictures. So the board will come up front, and the retirees will come forward. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I was going to mention to the retirees they could stay and spend the evening or go and celebrate, but they're already out the door, halfway out the door. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, so we are going to wait just a moment and allow our audience to move from one room to the next. I believe that's what we're doing. We do have a presentation, but I think we'll wait until the audience comes in because they're in transit right now. So we have an overflow room. When it gets crowded in this room, we have people in another location. I'm being told that that part of the audience is being brought over here. We can do the video? Okay, well, let's go ahead, and in the meantime, we have a video to watch.
Hi, I'm Darla Castillo, Teacher Librarian of the Year for 2023-24, as awarded by the Long Beach School Library Association. Our school district had been granted money to buy books for students to support our diversity, equity, and inclusion. And after hearing that, I said, well, I could help. We processed 240 books for about 35 or 40 schools, which came out to a little over 9,000 books. Being able to give a kid a book that shows their family or their neighbors or themselves, their face lights up and they smile and they're excited, and it gets them interested in seeing, oh, what else do you have? You have this? What else could I find?
It feels grateful that she was able to bring those books into our library. It can represent people from our school and from throughout Long Beach Unified.
It's important that we have access because we're exposed to books that reflect me and the community that I live in.
It is a wonderful surprise to have been recognized for something that I did just to help. I just want kids to have these books, and it feels really awesome to be recognized for that.
It's always wonderful to see our vision in action. Let's see, Axel, I understand that you would like to share some insights on graduation?
Yeah. So graduation season is very coming upon us because today is actually the graduation of CAMS. And then tomorrow night is the graduation for Sato. And then next week we have our Lakewood graduation on Tuesday, and then I believe Thursday is the graduation for McBride, Jordan, and Poly, I believe. I know I'm missing a few schools out there, but I don't know their exact graduation dates, but I know there's a lot of graduations happening this week and next week. So congratulations to the class of 2024. We did it. We made it.
How do you feel? Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't feel real right now. Like I don't see it coming. I feel like until I'm at the graduation podium, I feel like that's when it like hit me. But yeah.
And what night is day is the Jordan graduation?
It's at Thursday at 7 p.m. at the Veteran Stadium.
Okay. And will you be speaking at that graduation?
Yes.
You will. Okay. Well, it's gonna yeah.
About a preview.
A preview?
Okay. Yeah. I'm pretty sure the administration at Jordan has previewed your speech and given you the go-ahead on that one. Okay. Well, thank you. And we wish you luck. I know you have a report later, so we'll go on with the agenda, but we'll get back to you. Okay. Let's see. Yes, so this is the time set aside for a public hearing regarding the following: the Budget and Local Control Accountability Plan. And I know we have speakers. So first on the list, we have Kim Tabari, and then after Kim, we have Lilia Ocampo.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Baker, Deputy Superintendent Brown, and staff. I'm providing comments on the agenda item regarding the LCAP hearing. I think it's 11 point something. So I am speaking to you for the last time as a parent of a graduating senior in the district, but I will be back as a community member in the future. And as you may remember, I am a member of Long Beach Education Connection, a coalition of parents, guardians, community-based and advocacy-based organizations working on budget, system-wide changes, and system-wide changes to improve school students across the district, improve school for students. What is wrong with me? I can't talk today. I am also a member of the district's Black Student Achievement Initiative Advisory Committee, and I've held numerous positions at Wilson High School, including the outgoing chair of the School Site Council and vice president of PTSA. I've been involved sitting at tables with many of you in this room and creating our own community table. LBEC, as a community organization, is looking for transparency and accountability around TK-12 literacy in our district. One of our 3 recommendations that we shared with board members, and Dr. Baker and Dr. Brown will also get it to the staff via email, is that we are strongly requesting that you maintain and expand literacy positions that directly support students, specifically in 3 ways. 1, to encourage school sites to retain literacy teachers on special assignments or TOSAs, instruction and intervention coordinators, librarians, especially for grades TK through 8. 2, to elevate literacy support for groups most in need, including Black students, students with disabilities, long-term English learners, foster youth, and other student groups at school sites that are in the red for ELA on the California dashboard. And lastly, match school site spending with spending from the very large district reserves to keep positions in operation, prioritizing high-needs school. So thank you to the staff that have made literacy intervention and implementation a priority, and there is still more to do. Board members, please exercise your power and leadership continuing to prioritize literacy interventions for students, especially the ones I mentioned before, who are the most in need of literacy programs. And to the families listening online and in the gallery, there is a host of information online at your child's school. Please make sure that you access that information or ask for help. Thank you.
Thank you. After Ms. Ocampo, we have Nicole.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Baker, Deputy Superintendent Brown, and staff. I am providing comment on agenda item 11.1, budget and LCAP. I am Lilia Ocampo, a parent and member of Long Beach Education Connection, a coalition of parents, guardians, and community-based and advocacy-based organizations working on budget and system-wide changes to improve school for students across the district. Also, ELAC member at Washington, a school site council member also at Washington, representing Washington and the DLAC committee, and of course the superintendent committee too. Today, as a member of Long Beach Education Connection, we are looking for transparency and accountability around TK-12 literacy in our district. And one of our 3 recommendations that LBEC shared with board members, Dr. Baker and Dr. Brown this week via email, is that we are strongly requesting that you maintain and expand consistent communication with parents, specifically in 3 ways. Require regular family-teacher conferences with in-depth explanations of iReady and extra support needed based on the students' unique needs. Ensure family-teacher conferences are accessible by offering interpretation and virtual options. Create and share a cheat sheet about iReady support for English learner students and support for students with IEPs via email or text. Also including the LCAP, the goals for LTLs that include action items that target the specific needs and the money to provide the services they need that will help them to be proficient in the 4 domains that make sure that they reclassify and are A through G ready. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Nicole.
Hi, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. My name is Nicole Gon-Ochi. I'm with Public Advocates. I'm also part of Long Beach Education Connection with Kim and Lilia. And for the past 5 years, I have been supporting parents, students, and community organizations in Long Beach, although I am not a parent or a community member here. And so actually, I usually don't speak because I believe that those who are most directly impacted should be the ones speaking. But today, I did choose to come to speak because I did want to bring your attention to a new legal matter. And most of you here should have received a letter from many of us who are speaking today last week about new requirements for the LCAP. And those new legal requirements are that you must address the equity gaps in your district that exist in the LCAP with specific targeted actions. I'm not going to name all of them here, but here in Long Beach, right, Black students, there's an equity gap there for suspensions. English learners, the equity gap is graduation and math. In terms of English language arts, it's students with disabilities. And then in addition to the subgroups, there's also school sites. So even though Long Beach is green or doing good district-wide on English learner progress, there are 8 school sites that are red, which means they are not progressing, or the students there are not being supported to progress in English language proficiency as much as they should be. And so there should be specific supports in the LCAP to address that. And I was really impressed, actually, to see the LCAP change in response to our letter, even though we only sent it like 1 day before the new draft came out, so good job. But I wanted to point out some of the continuing problems. First, there's a reference there to how all the general supports should be viewed as ways to support in closing these gaps. And while that is true, that is not enough. One quick example for Black students, right? Black students are in the red for suspension. The reference in the LCAP is to the Black Student Achievement Initiative, which has no reference to school climate issues, to alternatives to suspension, which would be a more targeted way to address the over-suspension of Black students in Long Beach. At the same time, the restorative justice action in the LCAP has been cut by half of what was spent this year. I don't see how the suspension rates of Black students are going to be lowered if the restorative justice budget has been cut in half. So that's just one example. And the last thing I'll say, because I'm running out of time, is I appreciate the reference to the SIPSAs and how the school site gaps will be closed, but that's also not enough unless you actually post those online and link them in the LCAP, because no one will be able to find them. So I encourage you, board, to not adopt an LCAP that doesn't have very specific actions that show how Long Beach is going to close these equity gaps, because our students deserve that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we had somebody, it says agenda item number 1, but yes. Amir? Yes, sorry about that.
Sorry, I'll be commenting on the LCAP as well, 11.1. Good evening, school board, superintendent, and staff. My name is Amir Whitaker. I'm Senior Policy Counsel at the ACLU of Southern California. I've been fortunate enough to be at several school board meetings here over the past few years, and we've been in partnership with public advocates and children's defense funds and other partners hosting town halls here in Long Beach to reimagine school counseling and mental health support services. First, I want to echo the concerns and also the praises that my colleague Nicole raised, and the opportunities you all have to better serve the students and address the equity gaps. And also I want to mention that some of these things we've pointed out in a letter. The first letter ACLU signed on to was back in 2022, and it compared Long Beach to other school districts throughout Southern California or throughout LA County in terms of ratios with counselors to students in other areas, and just pointed out areas where you can better serve students and better invest in supports. And we were also one of the supporters of the petition that currently has over 750 signatures to reimagine school counseling in Long Beach. But also, I just emailed you, school board members and the superintendent, a report we just published last week at the ACLU. We just hit the 70th anniversary of the Brown versus Board landmark Supreme Court decision this month, or I guess last month in May. And this was a case that the ACLU was involved in along with the NAACP and others to address school segregation. And in this report we published last week, which again I emailed to you all, we looked at school segregation along with 23 other factors where we still see these inequalities or these equity gaps. And I just want to point to some here in Long Beach, because you don't have to look at all 24 factors, but you can look closely here and see whether it's AP access with students of color, with black students specifically, whether it's A through G access, and again, the suspension rates that Nicole pointed out that you can see highlighted in the dashboard. So ACLU has been involved in cases against the state of California where schools serving more black and brown students had less access to AP courses and exams, and congratulations to your student board member for his college achievement and Ivy League school. And you know, we've created a world where there is more access today, but there are still gaps throughout there. And one of the other areas we looked at in our report card was black teacher access. And I believe out of the 85 schools in Long Beach, there might be at least a dozen or so without any black teachers. So that's one of the areas as well. So I encourage you all to check out that report card, but also we'll be back with a more localized version looking at some of the inequalities specifically here in Long Beach. And you'll notice on the report card, we also talk about programs that are supporting black students throughout the state, which you all have here, the Black Student Achievement Initiative. And we point to other districts doing it, whether it's in Los Angeles Unified or Pasadena Unified or Oakland Unified. So we do commend you on that brave steps, and we encourage you to continue to invest and support students. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Well, let's see. If there are no more speakers, then that concludes the public hearing. And we will move on to public testimony on items listed on the agenda.
We don't have any.
Those were items listed.
Well, they were items listed, but for public hearing.
Right.
But this is also items listed, but not public hearing. Right. But I like to just say that, just to let people know. Now we will go to items not listed on the agenda, and we have a couple of speakers. So we will start with, well, there are two. So Robin Thorne.
Good evening, board members and staff. This is my first time speaking, so I'm excited to be here. So my name is Robin Thorne, and I am CEO of CTI. We're an environmental and engineering firm here in Long Beach. And I want to talk about my relationship with the district, the internship program, as well as the Female Leadership Academy. I was introduced to the Female Leadership Academy about 12 years ago. I was a keynote speaker at one of their events because I'm a chemical engineer, and they wanted a black female chemical engineer because representation matters, so I accepted the charge. My son, when I moved here from 25 years ago from Philadelphia, my son went to Los Cerritos Elementary School. He attended Hughes Middle School, and he graduated from Cabrillo in 2007, and he played sports, so he's a product of Long Beach. And I also want to talk about, the internships. So I love that program because your interns have been some of the best interns that have come through my company, CTI. Seems like I want to take up the full 3 minutes, but I really don't have enough to say. I'll also talk about an organization that I founded called Demo Chicks. So in 2018, we demolished the federal prison. And what I saw there was an opportunity to introduce girls to the field of demolition. So I realized that we want our girls to get an education, but we know realistically not everyone's going to get a 4-year degree. And we were paying our general laborers more than $40 an hour. There were water truck operators, excavators, excavation operators. And so I said, well, I should start an organization introducing Demo Chicks or demolition to the community. But as an engineer, I couldn't leave out STEM. So I started an organization called Demo Chicks, and we do workshops within the school district. And I want to say that for the past 3 years, we've been conducting those workshops on our dime, right? Because I think it's important. And as a new nonprofit, we had to build credibility. So it's important for me to do the work so that we could build the story. So I thank you for Long Beach Unified being open to receiving the work that Demo Chicks is doing. And I encourage you to continue to reach out as well as continue your internship program. And I won't go for the full 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for thinking of the students in what you do. Next, we have Holly Tucker.
Hello, good evening. My name is Holly Tucker. I'm the program director for Demo Chicks, and as Robin announced earlier, we are a nonprofit that introduces women, young women, to non-traditional careers. I just wanted to tell you just a little bit more about our organization and what we do. And so, so throughout the years, Demo Chicks has visited classrooms, guided students through in-depth projects, hosted interactive workshops in person and via Zoom through our Demo Chicks online program, which we actually held during the pandemic. Our workshops are packed with experiments and engaging presentations to truly capture the minds of young leaders and innovative learners. We actually were able to hold a workshop at North Point Apartments in 2023, which we actually did a 5-week after-school program located in North Long Beach. We also teamed up with Success and Challenges after-school program and introduced the young girls to the exciting world of STEM and had discussions and hand-on activities. We have collaborated with numerous number of Long Beach events, such as Long Beach Snow Day, hosted by the Six, and have also hosted a 4-week ACE Careers Camp to provide students with knowledge and insights about ACE fields. We currently work with Lionel Gonzalez, who is the Male Site Leadership Academy Supervisor for Long Beach Unified School District, and he connects us with students from schools such as Lindbergh Middle School, Jefferson's Female Leadership Academy, and Mann Elementary, where we have been able to cover the cost of our buses for the field trips. We have also currently given $15,000 in scholarships and have continued to supply internships through Long Beach Unified and Cal State Long Beach. Over the last 4 years, we have also participated in Long Beach Gives, which has tremendously increased our reach and impact. Each year, we actually do host an annual Breaking Barriers event, and which is also our anniversary celebration, where we not only fundraise to continue providing programs such as these, but to also award scholarships and acknowledge women that have had a powerful impact on our community. This fundraiser is what continues to make all of this possible for these students and their families. Our upcoming Breaking Barriers event will be held on August 10th at the Museum of Latin American Art, better known as MOLA, and we will be awarding scholarships and honoring women within the ACE and STEM fields. We appreciate your continued support and would like to continue to grow in partnership as we impact the lives of students in Long Beach. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have reports on the superintendent advisory groups. So we will start with the Business Budget and Policy Development Group. Dr. Benitez.
Thank you, President Craighead. So our board will be receiving 5 policies that required additional revision in accordance with California Department of Education. First policy is a non-discrimination and employment policy. Second is non-discrimination and harassment policy. Third is a bullying policy. Fourth is a uniform complaint policy. And the fifth is a non-discrimination in programs and activities. So we'll have those at our next meeting.
Thank you. Next, we have instruction and student learning. Ms. Lopez.
No report today.
Okay, and workforce development, Mr. Miller?
Great. I got 2 quick updates here. First, I'll talk about the LTD update. So there were a total of 199 certificated employees and 46 classified employees that completed our equity, leadership, and talent development pipeline programs this year. There are a total of 37 program specialists and assistant principals working on clearing their administrative credential. And as I spoke with the team, there are actually more opportunities for folks to get involved for these opportunities for professional development. And so I thought that this was a very good update in regards to our workforce development team and all the good work that's going on there. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about our SEAL interns. So there will be 50 SEAL interns who have expressed an interest in working with children as they explore their career in teaching. This paid internship experience is for our high school students who will be working at our elementary and K through 8 schools. So really cool opportunity for folks to what do they say, dip your feet in the water of education here and getting to work with our kids. And so I think this is just another great work by our workforce development team in creating a pipeline of future educators. So great work there.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the consent calendar. So I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent calendar.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
I do have a couple of questions. On item 15.4, the approval of the math requirement waiver. Can you just explain the approval of the math requirement waiver for the class of 2024, since we're voting to waive this requirement for 1,154 students?
Yeah, I can address that question. This is based on a board approval to add a requirement back in 2016 for a 4th year of math as being a requirement for our local graduation requirements. As part of that board policy, there was a contingent that students that had attempted the 40 units but weren't able to complete the 40 units would still be allowed to graduate. So this is a list of the students that have all attempted 4 years of math, but have not completed the 40 units in math. These students would have anywhere from 20 to 35 units as of this point. So 20 is the minimum that the state requires for graduation. And these students have completed at least 20 units, including the algebra requirement that's mandatory, but have not successfully completed the full 40 units. So this waiver allows them to still graduate, recognizing that they have taken 4 years of math during their coursework. This list does not include certain students that are exempt from the waiver, and this would include students that have taken higher level math courses, pre-calculus, calculus, statistics, in their junior year and opt not to take a 4th year of math. They are not included in this waiver.
Thank you. Also on item 15.7, number 37, if someone would just quickly elaborate on the contract with the Marriott Hotel for $112,455, and this is to provide the venue for professional development for teachers in the district.
So we have in our, we received a couple of years ago, our Universal Pre-Kindergarten Implementation Grant allows us to train all of our early learning, CDC, Head Start, TK teachers. And so there's about 600 folks that come all together, including some of the paraprofessionals. And so we're challenged to have a space here in our district premises that will house that many folks, so we have to contract out with other facilities.
And it's a 1 day?
I believe this is a two-day
Okay.
event.
Okay, and then one last question. Item 15.7, number 89, the membership with the Council of Great City Schools for $55,177. What does a membership include?
So the membership fee is determined by the size of the district, and it includes all kinds of federal advocacy, support for central office staff leaders, and a number of other professional resources, including professional resources for the Board of Education. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a quick request, Dr. Baker, for item 15.4 in our instruction report. There's a consideration for us to approve some revisions to curriculum for Long Beach School for Adults. It would be great at some point to get an update on just what we offer at the School for Adults. From time to time, we'll get invitations, we'll get some information, but it'd be great just to get a summarized update on what we're doing at the Long Beach School for Adults.
Thank you. So requests we can follow up on. And actually, Ms. Lopez, let me also add to your question. The Council of Great City Schools provides a year-end report that should come just after June 30th. It's something that will be distributed to you all as well. So, yep.
Any further discussion? No, he just has his microphone on. And I will ask our board secretary to take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Member Lopez?
Aye.
Member Otto?
Aye.
President Craighead?
Aye.
Member Benitez?
Aye.
Member Miller?
Aye.
Student Member Aguilar, preferential vote?
Aye.
Thank you. That passes 5-0.
Thank you. And then we have consent calendar B, agenda item number 16, adoption of resolution 060524-D, authorizing Chief Business and Financial Officer to compensate Board Member Lopez for her absence at our last board meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? I will,
I'm just going to recuse myself from the vote, since there is definitely a conflict here for me. Thank you.
and I will ask our board secretary to take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Member Otto?
Aye.
President Craighead?
Aye.
Member Benitez?
Aye.
Student member, Member Miller?
Aye.
Student member Aguilar, preferential vote.
Aye.
And Ms. Lopez is abstaining, so that passes 4-0.
Thank you. And that brings us to our staff report, which tonight is the budget and LCAP, the Local Control and Accountability Plan. So, yes, we take it away. All yours.
Okay. I'm happy to kick off this discussion on our budget and our LCAP for 24-25. Renee Arcus and I will be discussing the budget, and then we'll hand it over to George Tsai, Viva Mogi, and Jim Suarez to talk about the LCAP draft number 2. These documents will be before you for adoption on June 18th, and we'd just like to really express our gratitude for the engagement, not only of you, the Board of Education, but of the entire community. The engagement has been robust and has definitely informed the process, as well as the documents that you'll have before you for adoption. So much gratitude. Is the presentation?
Just for clarification, Madam President, we're not adopting, or we're not taking action on adopting. This is just an information item tonight.
That's right. Information only tonight. Thank you.
Okay. So we're required to have a budget approved and an LCAP approved in June for the fiscal year 24-25. But June really sits in the midst of a 12-month budgeting and financial reporting process. After the budget is adopted, will have 45 days once the state approves its budget, and their deadline is June 15th, to do any revisions to our budgets if there are any material changes in revenues to the district. Then we'll have the first interim and second interim financial reports, which really states how we're doing in relationship to the budget, as well as doing estimated actuals, which says how we've done for almost the entire year. That really informs our budget. So the budget really never sleeps. And just over time, especially with our out-year projections, those will undoubtedly improve as more information becomes known. So themes for our budget and LCAP adoptions. So we're really moving into a new era of budget. It's a year of contraction in terms of our revenues and adjustment post the revenue highs that were associated with ESSER funds. This will be our first year of projected deficit spending in about a decade. And we're entering into a new 3-year LCAP, which really demonstrates an achievement in aligning our actions with state goals and our strategic plan and superintendent and board goals. So it's a real achievement in those areas. The revenues in our budget are based off of the governor's May revision that was just released a few weeks ago. This May revision addresses a $27 billion state deficit. It does not propose significant reductions to education, though only provides districts a 1.07% cost of living adjustment, which we'll talk about later. And the proposals surrounding the treatment of Prop 98 minimum guarantee, which is the minimum amount that is guaranteed for education. There are some proposals regarding overestimation of revenue dating back to 22-23. These conversations really about Prop 98 minimum guarantees really affects the trajectory, meaning out year funding for the school districts and not necessarily current year funding. So when we hear about the Prop 98 maneuver or any agreements regarding the maneuver and some of the treatment of the overestimation of revenues dating back a couple years, that's really conversations that will affect us in the out years. And the revenues do not reflect the full risks to the California economy. So we see persistently high inflation, high California unemployment. We have the highest unemployment in the nation at 5.3%, high interest rates, and certain geopolitical events that really could affect the economy. The governor is projecting a slowdown, but the slowdown could be slower, and that could impact revenue. So it does not reflect the full risk to the California economy. So we'll just have to watch out.
So in the previous slide, you talked about contraction, and now you've listed the COLA and everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what we're looking at is really kind of an ebb and flow of things, and sometimes the revenues are higher and sometimes they're lower. Right. And it seems to me that to add a little bit more context to the conversation, we can include that last year COLA was at 8%, and the year before that at 12%.
Yes.
And so we've gone in a short amount of time from way up here to now we're just over 1%.
Yes, and we'll get into that and what a 1.07% COLA really means to us when we're declining in enrollment. So it means actually less revenue for the school district on a year-over-year basis.
Thank you.
This is our operating budget, which includes the general fund or adult education fund, child development fund, and the cafeteria fund. And we'll see the lion's share of our operating revenues are the general fund, and that's why we spend so much time talking about the general fund. We have about $100 million going into the other funds. I'll say the cafeteria fund in particular is particularly robust due to the universal meals that the state is continuing to support, and we support that. And here's a breakdown of our general fund revenue, $1.16 billion that we're projecting for the fiscal year. Most of it is, as you can see, is LCFF, which is really what the LCAP is all about. We have other state revenues at almost $200 million. That's special education revenue, lottery, after school, ELOP revenues, instructional materials, and Prop 28. That's all in other state revenues. And then we have federal funding, which is our federal titles 1, 2, 3, and 4, as well as sort of the run-out dollars that we have till September for ESSER. I have to say that this is $140 million lower than in our current fiscal year 23-24 due to the expiration of the federal funding, as well as less LCFF revenue due to what we're seeing is the COLA and the declining enrollment. So here are assumptions underlying our projections in terms of LCFF. You'll see, as Ms. Craig had mentioned, that there has been sort of very wild swings in terms of the COLA, 5.07, then 12.84 in 22-23, 8.22 in this fiscal year, and then down to 1.07. We have, at the adoption of the budget for 23-24, we had an estimate of 3.94% for 24-25. So it's gone down dramatically from about a year ago. For next year, we have 2.93% and then 3.08%. So we're using those as planning factors, but we'll really see if those COLAs materialize and whether those COLAs are fully funded by the state. We are projecting enrollment decline of 2.5%. This is a very challenging projection to make in terms of enrollment, but we're looking at the past couple years and projecting 2.5% moving forward. Our attendance rate of 93%, that's up from 92% that we're seeing in 23-24. We are not at the state average. The unified average rate is 93.44%, but we are projecting that we're going to move up to 94% even next year. So steady march up, and hopefully we'll at least reach the average unified rate for the state. And unduplicated pupil percentage of 64.48%. Our unduplicated pupil percentage is the basis for our supplemental and concentration grant funds from the LCFF. This is our economically disadvantaged, our English language learners, our foster and homeless youth. 64.48% is what we are projecting for next year and moving forward. And this is down from 5 or 6 years ago at about 70%. So it really speaks to some demographic changes that have really gone on in our school district. And this is the story of our enrollment. This is our story. This is the story for us in terms of the number of students that we are serving. From a high of 96,348 in 2002-2003, we've lost, if we look at what we're projecting for 24-25, that's a loss of 33,600 students. So this is a statewide phenomena of declining birth rates and just net migration out of California. So this is something that we are continually having to adjust to, and we will have to adjust to as time moves on. And when I speak of the expiration of ESSER funds, this has been planned over many years. A few years back, we received about $500 million in COVID relief funds, and we have methodically planned for those funds. We've used those funds over multiple years, stretched that funding out as much as we possibly could. And so this has been really our plan all along, is to reach this point in time and with about $50 million left in terms of the summer and completing some of our facilities projects. So this has really been in the works for a number of years. So I am done with talking about revenue. Renee's going to talk about expenses, but if you have any questions on the revenue side, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Takahashi. I know that Ms. Arcus is going to refer back to current year and then project out next year through our LCAP priorities.
Yes.
Could you re-clarify for us the difference between our operating funds revenue, which we have a pie graph of 1.28, our general fund revenue, which we have a pie graph of 1.16, and our general fund expenses, which we have a pie graph of 1.27.
Right. And
then the pyramid, I think it's 1.16 on the pyramid, or 1.17?
Yes.
Yes.
So the all operating funds, it says that's our entire operating budget, which includes the general fund, our general operating expenses, plus our child development program, plus our cafeteria, plus our adult education. So that's entire operating budget, of which the general fund is most of it. And then what you're talking about in terms of the expense budget, that pyramid is really what we intend to spend. And you'll see the difference between what we plan to take in and what we plan to spend. What we plan to spend is higher than what we plan to take in. And that is really the textbook definition of deficit spending.
All right. Thank you, Yumi. I just want to take an opportunity. We're going to start talking about expenditures. And Dr. Benitez, you set us off on the right path, kind of setting the stage for the entire budget, which is made up of the revenues that we're taking in from the various sources and the expenditures we're experiencing. Tonight, I'm going to concentrate on the general fund unrestricted, as it's our largest fund and it's where most of the action happens in our district. So, Dr. Benitez, what you're referring to is this graph that shows that we actually have plans to spend $1.27 billion this year, which is in difference to the $1.16 billion that we're going to take in revenue. This graph offers an opportunity to talk about the way that we spend our funds. And as you can see, and as all districts in California and all districts everywhere, our people are our biggest investment that we make in expenditures. So our salaries and benefits for the general fund is about 78% of our whole expenditure budget. And right now, we still have some large expenditures in the area of capital outlay, services and other operating, and books and supplies. And as Ms. Takahashi referred to, those are the spend down of the last part of our projects that we're talking about with ESSER. So those are our playgrounds, our shade structures, our furniture, and our water bottle filling stations, which on the graph, on the detail before, show that we're still spending out in a 24-25 fiscal year.
Ms. Arcus, I'm sorry, I just don't want to lose that point. So we're taking in 1.16 billion, but we're projecting to spend out 1.27 billion to continue with our responsibilities, commitments, obligations.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And that
roughly
actually,
$100 million.
Roughly $100 million between restricted and unrestricted general fund, and that does mark the first time in 10 years that the district, has planned to deficit spend. I'll talk a little bit later about what that impact is to our ending fund balances, and kind of tell you about what that allows us to do. Our ending fund balances being what they are right now. So let me give you some expenditure highlights. These are the assumptions that we use. Something that we like to talk about often when we're developing budget is that we have to utilize assumptions in development of budget. There's certain things that are known factors, and there's certain things that are provided to us by state or just things that we know are happening in due to inflation and all the things we're experiencing. So retirement contributions are a big topic of conversation. They always have been. Our STRS contribution remains at 19.1%. that is in statute at this point, and it's not anticipated to change for now. The PERS contributions are increasing to 27.05%, which is a little bit less than 1% more than we're paying for this year. Our health benefits, we utilize about a 6% increase. We are in the 6 to 8% range usually, so that's not out of line. This year, we were able to offset some prescription savings in our PPO plan. We have health benefits committees that work together with the district to work on plans and what we can do in our health benefits to continue to look at areas that we might be able to save. However, that being said, the average benefit cost of our employees per employee is $26,317. This special ed annual increase cost, is estimated at about $4 to $5 million. We have costs that you guys are seeing in your own homes related to utility increases, things that you're seeing in your own bills. Those also impact the district, and those are included to the best of our knowledge. And at this time, there are no salary increases assumed. So I'm kind of excited about this. This is, we've been utilizing our pyramid from the previous year, given that we don't have updated numbers, and this is our first reveal with our updated numbers of our pyramid, talking about our general fund budgeted expenditures. So tonight we will be providing additional detail on the bottom two layers, which are all included in the LCAP, and we provide detail by each of the goals and actions talking about the funding that we're spending within those two categories. So we provide a lot of detail in that area. The additional resources on the top three levels, we've taken an opportunity to provide some of the highlights of the expending that we plan on doing out of the different funds in these state, federal, and local grants and entitlements. One thing that you may notice tonight is we've flipped the script. We've had federal has kind of been the bigger piece of our pyramid, and state has been a little bit smaller. And this is our first time as we kind of head back to what I'll call pre-COVID federal level, that our federal grants and entitlements are going to come in less than our state grants and entitlements. And one thing you'll see is they're at $100.2 million, but that still includes about $38 or $39 million in ESSER funds that we're finalizing this year. So Dr. Benitez, as promised, I'm going to talk about the ending fund balances and the effect that deficit spending has on our ending fund balances. For this purpose, we've talked about the general fund as a whole, but these are our ending fund balances in our unrestricted general fund. The general fund is split into two pieces. The restricted fund has all of those things that we like to talk about, the Title I's, the ELOP funds, all the things that have restricted resources and things that we can do with them. The unrestricted side kind of has our operating budget and our LCAP in it. So we are anticipating with our estimated actuals an unrestricted ending balance of about $421 million, which is an increase from the prior fiscal year. But as you'll note on the slide before you, our 24-25, our 25-26, and our 26-27 ending fund balances are anticipated to go down with the fact that we're deficit spending.
Quick question on the previous slide, Ms. Arcus, just clarification. Our unrestricted ending balance, is that the same or different from what we call our reserves?
That we use the terms interchangeably.
Okay.
So our unrestricted ending balance is often what we refer to as our general fund reserves.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so what do we know, what do we do about our new ending fund balances? What do they represent? So again, as we've said before, this is our first year of deficit spending since 2013 and 14. What a decreasing fund balance it does is it signals to the district that we need to begin to bring revenues and expenses into alignment. However, the fact that we have a reserve, as we've been discussing, gives us the cushion that allows the district to be more strategic in aligning our budget to the programmatic expenditures. So in essence, the cushion that we have gives us time to kind of develop the plan that will allow us to realign our revenues and expenditures going forward. So before we head into the LCAP, draft 2, which I'll turn over to George, are there any questions regarding revenues or expenditures we can answer tonight?
I would just like to take this opportunity to thank the team, the whole financial team, for making sure that we have that cushion, that cushion prevents us from going into a situation where we have to have layoffs or other very unpleasant actions that had to be taken before, like, say, during the Great Recession. So it's because of the fiscal responsibility of this team, and that includes the leadership team as well, that we're able to do that without having to face a crisis situation going into deficit spending. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. So we'll now transition to our latest iteration of the Local Control Accountability Plan, which you know as LCAP. Many of these slides will look familiar to you, and we hope to just provide a refresher on items that you've seen in past presentations while delving into content that's been revised or added since draft 1. So one area you'll notice the changes is the actions section. This is where dollar figures are now attached to items within each of the goals. So thank you, Renee and budget team, for that. This graphic right here represents one intent when drafting the plan. That's ensuring that the LCAP aligns with the district's vision, strategic plans, the board's and the superintendent's goals, and the state's 8 LCFF priorities. So this alignment is detailed by goal in the comprehensive slide deck that's available to the public from our district website. So as presented last time, here are the drafted LCAP goals to address all the various plans, priorities, and goals. So the first 5 are on high quality learning in alignment with our excellence and equity policy. So excellence with a high quality learning for all students, and equity with high quality learning for our historically underserved students. So this plan ensures our district shines an equity light on our most marginalized at-promise students by specifying goals and metrics to hold ourselves accountable for their achievement. And the latter 4 goals focus on efforts toward engagement, an equitable and liberatory district, transformative change, and a new goal for next year addressing the state's equity multiplier goal, accelerated learning for students in alternative or continuation schools. So the action items provide details on programs and services that can help attain each of the listed goals. For Goal 1, personnel, programs, and materials are categorized into the 9 actions that you see listed on the left. While the slide may look familiar from the last presentation, you'll now notice the inclusion of budgeted amounts, both for each action item listed within the individual boxes, and that sum that's shown near the top of the page. So the first 3 actions are funded through about $465 million from the base funding. That's the bottom part of the budget triangle. You see 1.1 pupil services, 1.2 instruction, and 1.3 instruction-related services. And then you'll see the other 6 are similar in format with the budget amounts on the top right of each of those boxes as well, listing off the personnel, materials, and programs that are included. While the identified subgroups are included in goals 2 through 5, they also benefit from programs and services listed here. Goals 2 through 5 and their actions are part of a learning from the strategic planning process embracing targeted universalism, an approach to help targeted students reach the universal goal of attaining the graduate portrait, as well as specific processes, programs, and services to help achieve each subgroup's goal. Before continuing on to the budget and actions of other goals, we have to show the budget triangle again. So this slide serves as a reminder that our district can leverage other funding from state and federal programs. So for example, funding for Black student achievement objectives will not only be found in the LCAP, but also in two other portions of the budget triangle. And federal programs can contribute to services we provide English learners, students with disabilities, and our homeless and foster youth.
Can you say that one more time? I think that was an ongoing community concern. Say that one more time for us, please.
Yeah, so we can leverage funding from other state and federal programs. So we talked about just the Black Student Achievement initiative that you'll find in the LCFF and LCAP. But there will be other places that you will find funding for them in federal, state grants and entitlements. You just wanted to hear budget triangle again, right? Yeah, all right.
So
Thank
one
you.
of my
Thank you.
favorites.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tsai, I won't take up a lot of time here, but I do think, to reiterate Mr. Miller's point, that real or perceived, there is a sense that we're not allocating LCFF funds for things that we prioritize, like Black student success. And I'm wondering, just here from a philosophical perspective, the reasoning and the value added to being able to use non-LCFF committed funds, because real or perceived, there is a sense of then where do we see this funding in LCFF if it's coming out of another fund that we can direct targeted funds toward?
I mean, I can provide a little bit of comment on that. I think, first of all, the LCAP is driven by a set of requirements that must be completed. And so I first want to just appreciate the team that has been so thoughtful in ensuring that the board goals and district goals are deeply present in the LCAP, along with all of the requirements that are there, and Vision 2035. So very important to that. Also, there are many things, including, just want to affirm the suggestions about K-3 literacy and what we heard speakers and Long Beach Education Connection make comment about tonight, that in some cases that doesn't show up, which is what you're asking me to call out, I think, Dr. Benitez, in this plan, because it shows up somewhere else. It shows up in additional allocations by using, in particular, Title I funds I can think of with literacy that come both in the form of district decisions as well as school site decisions. And those school site decisions are intended, they're run they're voted upon by their school site council, and they're intended to give a local school that authority to know its students and then to make decisions. So the reference to the SIPSAs, or student single plan for student achievement, was what one of the commenters made. So the beauty of the way that this budget has been developed, the LCAP and the pyramid, I'll say, is that it allows us in this cross-departmental work and having board goals and district goals to build a coherent program that means that you're not just following budget strings, you're actually thinking about the needs of your students, and then you're attaching different resources to make the most of your resources. Another example is thinking about our expanded learning opportunities grant that is for expansion of the school day, and how often we can supplement the school day program for student groups that you see here called out in our goals, but that will not necessarily appear in the LCAP itself. So that's one thing. The other thing is that the LCAP is a broad description of funding and programs and actions. It doesn't tell about the day-to-day implementation, and so I saw a lot of us taking notes as the speakers have spoken about communication and about other aspects that are important to us, and it's for us to continuously improve in those areas. However, they wouldn't necessarily show up in the LCAP itself. They are for the administration of all of our district programming.
So can I call out a specific one, Dr. Baker? Interpretation for parent-teacher conferences. where would that potentially, I know it's not going to be broken down to that granular level, but I think that's a priority for us. We've spoken about language access. We've spoken about language justice. We've committed funding toward that. Parent-teacher conferences, I think, are a part of that priority. So can I, just as an illustrative example?
Yeah, it's a great example. And actually, you're coming to slide 25, which will tell you about the $4 million of expenditures specifically to enhance supports for English learner support. The interpreter unit, from a budgetary perspective, falls under that $4 million of investment. The implementation falls under the administration, the equity and engagement and partnerships office that has the interpreter unit in it. So the feedback from our community is always taken to staff, then to incorporate into the way that our families and our parents and caregivers are experiencing the implementation of those funds. Yeah, great. That's a great example.
I love how fluid and dynamic this is. I can jump around. This doesn't have to be in sequence. So, yes, I just wanted to say before I start going over these goals, budgets, and action items, that rather than go through them line by line, I'll just highlight some of the items here, and then if you'd like more details about them, you can access the draft and this comprehensive slide deck on a district website that is ingrained in your head already for that one. So goal number 2, high quality learning for Black student achievement. You can see inclusions there for the Sankofa program and workshops that you've heard about at previous meetings, and to create a Center for Black Excellence with a dedicated staff focused on lifting the educational experience of the Black students. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. You had asked about the interpreter unit as well, and that's listed in Goal 3. Goal 3 also includes the multilingual office, elevation platform that provides instructional resources and tracks progress of current and former English learners, and the Enlace program to help newcomers accelerate language acquisition. Goal number 4, high quality learning for students with disabilities, includes the special education instructional staff, the transportation needs of the special education students, and specialists in areas of health, speech, and school psychology. For goal number 5, high quality learning for homeless and foster youth, that includes social workers and foster youth transportation. And goal number 6, is dedicated to the efforts to bring the community together and engage parents and families. So in addition to investing in maintaining communication systems, the district is finding opportunities to address diverse topics of relevance to families. So the Equity, Engagement, and Partnerships Office provides parent university workshops, works with programs that participating parents have been raving about at the meetings I've been attending. That includes Parenting Partners, Calm and Kind, and FLI, Family Leadership, Inc. Goal number 7, Equitable and Liberatory District, has 7 action categories. These actions within the goal include early learning, restorative justice, instructional intervention coordinators, male and female leadership academies, and I think you had just mentioned, Dr. Benitez, the allocations that go directly to schools, or Dr. Baker, you might have mentioned that. The allocations directly to schools so they can decide how best to address their site-specific needs. Just as a side note, for anybody interested in what the schools are doing, we do have both CIE plans and the SPSA, School Plan for Student Achievement. We try to update that monthly on the district website so you can actually go and see what your school is doing.
CIE?
Continuous Improvement Expenditure. Thank you. Sorry, too many acronyms. Goal number 8. Transformative change. So in addition to physically maintaining clean, safe, and up-to-date learning environments, Goal 8 is budgeted for approximately $136 million to help increase educational effectiveness and impact. That also includes curriculum coaches, program specialists, and professional development for classified and certificated staff. So here to provide insight on the inclusion of community voice in the LCAP and an explanation of goal number 9, here's Viva.
Thank you. Good evening. I will kind of walk through some of the community voice in our LCAP. As mentioned in our previous presentations, we had over 2,000 participants and also similar about 2,000 thoughts. And so we've been really trying to figure out what is the best way to, one, incorporate it into the LCAP and then also share it in a more synthesized way. We did read every single one of their thoughts, but we thought it might be most helpful to be able to see them in a synthesized way with the most kind of comments that came from our community. So I'm only just going to walk through goal 1 as we did in our presentation last time. This is a new addition that we added into the draft LCAP as well. And the reason why I'm just going to go over 1 is because the rest is in the comprehensive deck. And so I just wanted to make sure that folks knew that in the comprehensive deck, there is an additional community voice component into the LCAP. And so just to briefly talk about from goal 1, high quality learning for all, quality core instruction and also literacy interventions, and care and wellness and people services were all kind of some of the comments that were made. I will briefly go over them. Participants really expressed concerns about students' reading level, indicating a need for interventions to improve students' achievement in literacy. I am very certain we have conversations with our other team on the instructional side very often, and so these are not things that I would say that we do hear these very often. Literacy, as even in the public comment today, is a high priority, and so we did kind of list out 2 of their major comments that came in. And also additionally, when you look at each literacy intervention or quality core instruction and care and wellness centers and pupil services, at the end, it does tie into our state priorities. So when it comes to literacy intervention, they're in state priority 4 and in state priority 2 based on their comments. And we will be able to kind of assess and show metrics in the coming years once we do, go through 1 year of our LCAP. We will be able to go back to the community members and also share about how the metrics are showing. And so I wanted to make sure that we tied it into the state priorities so that people can see that their comments are also aligned to our state priorities, and they will be measured into the LCAP, and there will also be metrics aligned to it as well. The next one is on goal 9. Goal 9 is the equity multiplier. So the equity multiplier funds, in brief, we were starting the next school year in 24-25, LCFF equity multiplier will provide additional funding to districts, allocation to school sites with prior year with non-stability rates greater than 25% and social and economically disadvantaged pupil rates greater than 70%. These were kind of determined by the California Department of Education, and they have determined these 2 schools as that qualified within those 2 criteria. And so that's Reed and at EPHS, and this is the dollar amount that was allocated to each school site. One of the requirements the additional requirement that they provided is that they will need to engage their school community to come up with how they will be leveraging these funds and also be looking at their data. As you heard in the dashboard, the ones that look red, you had to kind of focus more into how you're going to improve. And so they did go back to their community, and these were, these were some of the work that they want to do. So at Reed, they talked about mentorship, tutoring, teacher professional development, after school hours collaboration time, celebration of student success and guest speakers, and college and career advisors. And EPHS also had a host of other things that they wanted to do that include college and career specialists, wellness and resource centers, mentorship, tutoring, and student planners and other things as well that also shared in Reed as well. And so this was This was done together with, in collaboration with their school community and with their staff as well. And so I will pass it along to Jim, who is so ready to do the next part. To walk through some of the what else was added into the LCAP.
That was a nice introduction. Thank
Yes,
you.
thanks.
Good evening. I'm here to take us home. So, what is new with the draft number 2? So, as you know, on April 26th, the first draft of the LCAP was posted, along with a community feedback opportunity. The draft was presented to DCAC on May 23rd and a DLAC on May 21st. On May 31st, the second draft of the LCAP was posted. Yesterday, draft 2 was presented to DLAC, and tomorrow we will present it to DCAC. We also continue to ask the community for feedback and input specifically on draft 2, and I'll have more on this later in the presentation. So you're probably wondering about the major differences between the two drafts. This slide gives some highlights about the major differences. Let's start with highlights. The major addition from draft 1 are the projected budgets for all line-itemed programs and services. This is in direct response to the governor's May revise, which gave districts a better understanding of the LCFF funding receivables. Using the May revise, the total amount of LCFF dollars that LBUSD expects for the 2024-25 school year is included in draft 2 of the LCAP. In draft 2, the budgeted funds are located for each line item, program or service in the action section, which my colleague George just demonstrated in the previous slides. Another major addition is that all metrics for each goal have been augmented with the baseline data and the 3-year target for improvement. Just a reminder, most of the metrics are required by the state. In addition, the board and district goals are all included in the LCAP. With much intention, many of the LCAP metrics focus on gap reduction in an effort to shine a light on equity. As Viva described in the previous slides, Draft 2 shares more details about the feedback garnered from the community and how the LCAP responds with aligning goals, LCFF priorities, and the community's priorities. In Draft 2, Goal 9, the equity multiplier goal, has been fully developed, which was also previously shared just a minute ago by Viva. The last section of the LCAP gives more details of each of the actions that are identified as contributing to the improvement or increased services for foster, low-income, and/or English learners. This subgroup of students are also known as unduplicated pupils. The increased or improved section, which is the last section of the LCAP, describes how each action addresses the needs of unduplicated pupils and identifies metrics to monitor its effectiveness. To clarify this section, I'd like you to envision the budget pyramid and/or triangle. Okay, there's George. George hit the triangle. I want you to imagine the budget triangle and the second layer from the bottom. This is the LCFF supplemental and concentration funds. That is where you can find, in the LCAP, the final section, is where you can find the programs and services for unduplicated pupils. The technical assistance section shares the way in which the County Office of Education and our partnership with core districts is impacting our lowest achieving student groups that were identified by the state. These student groups include English learners, students with disabilities, and foster youth. So let me center our attention on some actions and highlights some additions for the actions in draft 2. Action 2.1, create a Center for Black Excellence with a dedicated staff, including a director, administrative secretary, and 3 administrators who will lead the efforts in enhancements for Black students and families, including social emotional wellness, academic achievement, and community engagement. Action 3.1, we've added additional services to English learners, including Lexia ELD, which is an instructional tool that supplements teacher-provided instruction for newcomer students. Translation pens are a supplementary tool provided to newcomers at the secondary level to support students with communication and content. Rosetta Stone is a supplementary tool provided for newcomer students in grades 4 through 12 to support language acquisition. And finally, in 3.1, the Sunday system supports teacher-led EL instruction for students in grades K through 8 and 9 through 12. Also added to the second draft in Action 4.2 is Vision to Learn. Vision to Learn is a program that provides vision screenings, eye exams, and free glasses to children in low-income communities. Action 5.1, Draft 2 adds some services that are provided by our foster and homeless unit, including partial credit advocacy, attendance intervention, SEL support, basic needs and school supplies, external health referrals, home visit, and enrollment assistance. I don't know why I'm pointing it this way. I don't think that has anything to do with where I'm pointing it. Action 6.2, parent involvement augmentations in Draft 2 includes parenting partners, which builds capacity for strong family-school partnerships. These workshops combine parenting and leadership skills that empower parents to become vital contributors to their children's academic success. Calm and Kind is designed to equip parents with tools to support their children emotionally, including understanding their mental health, self-regulation, and managing own emotions. And finally, in section 7.6, we add a full description of the instruction and intervention coordinators, or IICs, which are allocated to all elementary, TK through 8, and middle schools, and work to ensure quality core Tier 1 instruction to accelerate learning in every classroom by supporting school-wide professional development, facilitating grade-level planning, and modeling, coaching, and co-teaching with individual teachers. So let's talk about some new local indicator metrics. LCFF priorities, where data that is not collected at the state level empowers districts to measure and report progress to the dashboard based on locally collected data. These are called local indicators. This year we have identified some specific indicators in the form of LCAP metrics for 2 of the LCFF priorities. Priority 2, access to a broad course of study, and LCFF Priority 7, implementation of state standards. As you can see, there are 3 for access to broad course of study, which is LCFF Priority 2. And I'm going to ask Dr. Lund to give us some highlights about these new programs and metrics to bring the LCAP alive.
All right, Jim. So these are really grounded in our strategic plan around high quality learning for all students. And they're really predicated upon the lever that professional development plays in improving student achievement. So if you improve classroom instruction, the goal is to improve student learning as a result. When teachers teach better, students learn better. So these are really predicated upon professional development as a broad scope and sequence, building upon the professional development that we rolled out this year around quality core instruction, QCI. And quality core instruction, you can think of it as identifying best practices for teachers. That we've identified these practices as high leverage teaching practices that, if when done effectively, really impact students and their learning. So the first one there is a pilot project that we're engaging in around interdisciplinary units. And this is grounded in our strategic plan around helping students feel connected to what they're learning. So we know in the real world, you don't learn, the real world is not discipline specific. It's not like you only do writing and you only do reading and you only do science. You actually read in science. You actually write in history. So it's an effort to really connect content within and across subjects. Easier said than done. It's probably easier at the elementary level where one teacher teaches multiple content areas and can make those links and connections for students. But it really does incorporate science and history into the reading and writing portion of the day. At the secondary level, it's a little bit more challenging. We're going to be doing some pilot work at the middle school level to really connect the English class with the history class. So looking at where we can draw those lines and connections between what students are reading in their English class and what they're reading and learning in their history class and writing about simultaneously. So, like I said, we're going to be piloting projects over the next several years in these different grade levels to see where are those opportunities to really deepen and connect real-world experiences within the classroom. The second and third goals relate to our quality core instruction. This is part of our broad professional development plan for next year that will provide 2 to 4 days of training for teachers that will vary depending on their grade level and embedded in content. So research shows that when teachers learn best is when best practices are connected to content instruction. And what that means is that math teachers learning from our math curriculum experts, history teachers learning from our history team. Elementary, we've defined specifically K2 literacy work and 3-5 math work to really ground the practices that we're teaching in core content. This also connects to our board goals. The K2 literacy work directly connects to board goal 1 and board goal 2. The 3-5 math work will connect to our 6-12 math work and improving math instruction overall, targeted to really building upon our new math framework that was adopted by the state this year. So the professional development plan, as you see kind of outlined, that 1.17 outlines specific teaching strategies, student-centered, culturally relevant content, clear and explicit learning intentions and success criteria, standards-aligned rigorous tasks, intentional and consistent engagement. And you can kind of see looking across those when students see themselves in the curriculum, when the teachers are clear about what students are learning and students are clear about what they're learning, and they're clear about what success looks like to that learning, when they're engaged in rigorous, challenging work, and when students are consistently engaged throughout a lesson, not just physically, emotionally, but cognitively engaged in that work, you can say that that is a joyful, rich classroom. So we started that work this year. We measured that through our quality core visits. We visited 700 classrooms to collect data around the implementation of this work. And the goals that you see outlined here is really how do we deepen and transfer that work. So the professional development that we're building out will not include a lot of new learning. There will be some new learning around designated ELD in particular in support of our English learners, but there will be a lot of what I'm going to call deepening and transferring of practice and utilizing structures that provides professional learning in the classroom, what you might call job-embedded professional learning, where teachers are learning from each other through professional learning, through peer observation, peer coaching, peer mentoring, lesson study design, where teachers plan lessons together and observe each other teaching those lessons. So I'm really challenging my team to really build out professional learning that will not only engage teachers in the practice, but really will help them see a direct application to these practices in the classroom. So that's an example of what this might look like in our work moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. Lund. A couple of new local indicator metrics are presented for LCFF Priority 7. And for more on these, Mr. Moskovitz, would you like to take that away a little bit and see how the LCAP is impacting schools and students?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So just about 2 weeks ago, our last group of the year came down from Camp High Hill up at Oaks. We had nearly 3,000 students, fifth graders, that participated. And it was a great experience overall. You know, had its bumps along the way, but overall it was a great experience, and really appreciate partnership with the YMCA related to that. One of our goals, and the reason we're having an outdoor science camp, is really to get our students, our fifth graders, exposed to the outdoors, exposed to ways to connect with one another, connect with nature, learn about science. And so in doing that, we want to make sure that our students actually get up there. It may not be a surprise to you, it may, well, I don't know, but that there was a gap between our Title I and non-Title I school attendance. So there was about an 8% gap. Nearly 80% of our fifth graders at our non-Title I schools attended, about 72% of our fifth graders at our non-Title I schools. So a goal here is to increase the number of fifth graders at our non-Title I schools, at our Title I schools, so that we can make sure that students who may be less likely to experience environments like that have that opportunity. So we're already, this year we were already talking with parents about what was it that was preventing them from attending, preventing their children from attending. We were trying, there's no cost associated with this for students or families. No direct costs. Sometimes there could be hidden costs around clothing and sleeping bags, and so we provided those free to families who needed it. But we're going to continue to do outreach and ensure that we every year increase the percentage of fifth graders from our Title I schools who are attending.
It's just hard to let your fifth graders spend the night overnight somewhere.
Let alone 5 nights,
yeah,
huh?
when we're not letting them spend the night at friends' houses, right, Mr. Moskowitz?
Yeah, I mean, yes, when we talk to parents, the number one reason they said is they just didn't feel safe sending their kid away. To your point, they don't even go to their friend's house overnight next door in the apartment or house next door. The second one won't be a surprise to anyone in this space. Of course, we have a board goal 4 related to the number of the percentage of our 12th graders who are on track or who are graduating A through G eligible. And specifically, we're looking to narrow the gap between our black and non-black students to 0. This is a goal that we would call, for our board goals, we'd call it an interim goal or an interim measure. But along the way, as part of our LCAP, we do want to also measure the progress, the percent of students who are on track throughout their high school journey. So this is a good example of connecting between LCAP and board goals, where we'll bring the interim measures from our board goals into the LCAP.
Thank you, Mr. Moskowitz. I was just looking at the LCAP draft number 2 to kind of suggest some of these things that I said earlier, which are we're focusing a lot of our metrics on gap reduction. And I think that's really important. And I also think what's important about our metrics is that it holds us accountable. It shines that flashlight on places where, quite frankly, it hasn't shown before. There's a lot of metrics here. And to be honest with you, one of the biggest things that I don't even mention about draft 2 compared to draft 1 is it is double the pages. Meaning we've put a lot of effort and a lot of thought around trying to be very intentional about the alignment. Let me move on. So for our community, the question is, how do I access the draft number 2? And I'm glad you asked, because I get to stand here and say, please go to www.lbschools.net/LCAP. At this webpage, you will find the comprehensive slide deck. That includes all the slides that you've seen here tonight being presented, as well as goals 2 through 8 that Viva spoke about in the community voice in our LCAP. In addition, there's an opportunity to provide feedback for draft 2. So we offer that as part of looking at how we can revise, how we can tweak things, and ensure that we're doing the right thing on behalf of our students. And all 3 of these things, yes, you get it in one spot, lbschools.net/LCAP. Lastly, what are our next steps? We are in phase 3, and because this is the final phase of the LCAP development, there's a couple of next steps. One, we will be providing a community report that addresses questions about the LCAP from the feedback that's been received. This will be posted at lbschools.net/LCAP, no surprise to anybody. That is scheduled to be posted on June 13th. And finally, the LCAP and the budget will be agendized for approval at the next board meeting, which is Tuesday, June 18th. And we just brought it home. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Do we have any comments or questions? Mr. Miller, are you going to start us out?
Yeah, I'll be brief here, but I knew that after going through this, I'd be remiss if I didn't applaud all of you for the hard work and the, I guess Jim's said it best when you talked about just the nuances that have been detailed here in regards to supporting some of our most at-promise youth. When it comes to the LCAP, it is a compliance matter for some folks. But it is something that is very clear that the district has taken to heart, has taken our goals as a district and as a board into consideration, and I am very, very pleased and impressed with the level of detail, but more importantly, the level of consideration when it comes to our students who need the most support. And so as I have seen this presentation and have gone through draft number 2, I'm just very humbled and very appreciative of all the work that everyone has put into this. It is very clear that you all have our district and our students' best interests at heart. So congratulations to you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Otto.
I've seen the materials that were presented by the Long Beach Education Connection and what their recommendations are. Did we receive any similar kind of recommendations from any other groups? Or I know we met with members of the community all during the last 6 months or so about this, but were there any other systematic recommendations that were submitted?
So, to answer that question, Mr. Otto, I have not received any other indication or any documentation from any other advocacy groups. However, that said, I will say that it is a community priority for, as we've gone through in the past, it is a community priority for literacy support. And I'm going to, because I had a couple of notes, I'm going to identify a spot for literacy. It is in our LCAP. It is approximately $16 million. It's action 1.6, and just give me a moment, because I would like to, I'd like to share that, because I think that maybe that had been missed, but this is what it says. 1.6 is literacy support. Expand literacy support in elementary and K-8 schools. This expansion includes the deployment of research-based, consistent literacy interventions across sites, principally for those with high concentration of unduplicated pupils. Through deploying literacy teachers, ongoing training of literacy teachers, as well as the purchase of intervention materials. So I'm not saying that's $16 million is what we're spending on literacy support. That is not what I'm saying. But clearly, there is literacy support in our schools. There's literacy support in the LCAP. That only includes the second tier of the triangle. If we start including Title I, if we start including other local and state funding sources, we make that, augment that so that we do have literacy support. Now, on the flip side of that, how are our Black students doing? How are EL students doing? How are our students with disabilities doing? That's where the equity piece, and that's where we have to, as Mr. Miller, thank you, Mr. Miller, for your comments. That's what we have to concentrate on, is holding ourselves accountable for the students who have historically been underperforming. So, do we have stuff in the LCAP around it? Absolutely. Is there more to do? Yes. Do our metrics include things about literacy support? Absolutely, because your goal 1 is in the LCAP, and there are many more goals for English language arts. I'm sorry, many more metrics that we are expecting for English language arts.
No, and I asked that question because I wanted to make sure that there wasn't a piece of this community involvement that I had missed because something had come in relatively recently or whatnot. I know that there's tons of community involvement, and there have been sessions where people have been able to provide their thoughts about this, but I've gone over the Long Beach Education Connection budget recommendations. There are 3 and a bunch of subparts, but it's but what I was trying to establish was there anything that I was missing in terms of all this, and I don't, based on our conversations yesterday and what I'm hearing today, I think no, and we've got a lot of very broad community input.
I would say that we absolutely addressed the community's priorities. As Viva just whispered in my ear, we also have engaged frequently our DCAC and our DLAC parent advisories. And yes, they've given us recommendations and ideas, and we've really tried hard to listen and be able to present to you an LCAP that we feel does good by all students, but also ensures equity for our historically underachieving students.
And for the benefits of the thousands of people that are watching, could you tell us what DCAP and DLAC are? Because
sure. DCAC is our District Community Advisory Committee. It's comprised of mostly Title I parents, parents from Title I schools, who advise and recommend and give us ideas about Title I, which, by the way, is a federal program. It is not part of the LCAP. However, the state requires us to talk to those families to get input for good reason. Because, again, it's shining an equity flashlight. Our DLAC is the District English Learner Advisory Committee. They are a similar body required by the state that represents our English learner community. And they do basically the same thing, except one thing that they are charged to do is to ensure that the English learner perspective is captured.
Yeah, like I said, the reason I asked was to make sure that there wasn't a piece of it that hadn't come in late. I know that things have been, I won't say changing, but being accumulated over the last 6 months, and so I feel comfortable that we've got everything here tonight, and we're looking forward to the final fine-tuning of this. As I look back over...
And Mr. Otto, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to make sure that I make this clear, is that we are still asking for input from our community through lbschools.net/LCAP.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, www.lbschools.net/LCAP.
Thank you. So, I mean, what's the elegant part of this, in my mind, is that, not that long ago, a couple of years ago, we said, so what are we going to do? We're going to figure out how we're going to transform how we educate our students. And the big takeaway from that was that we wanted there to be voices of the community, voices of students, in ways that we had had difficulty, in my mind and in my experience, I think Dr. Benita's experience too, wasn't easy to get. And so we started this strategic planning process and went on for over a year and a half. And basically the goal was to find out what we wanted our graduates to be, how it was that they could get there, and we came up with these 3 portraits that were and core values that all were kind of formed a basis for what it was that we were trying to do. There was a lot of emphasis in the end about student voice. There was a great number of student participants in doing that. And growing out of that, where there were board goals, there were superintendent goals, there were state standards that gave us direction about how to organize all of that, and then to put these programs together to address those things which we had identified as the way we wanted to go forward in a way that was very transparent and that was very accessible to the community, and then we came up with the LCAP basically, and draft 1, and I remember as I had started to go through the first draft, you kindly told me wait for the second draft because it's twice as long, and it's. I think my response,
riveting reading, I assure you.
I think my response was, "Oh boy," but we did that, and but the most remarkable thing about all of this, in my mind, is that at a moment in time where we are not only deficit spending, but we are in a state where many large school districts, and I won't even talk about the smaller school districts, but the large school districts are in trouble, are in a lot of trouble. I won't name names, but while I don't know exactly, I haven't studied what's going on in all these other big districts, but we seem to be in a position to be able to execute what it is that we intend. We made the decision to move forward with a couple of years ago, and we're doing that. And it's really a tremendous achievement. And the involvement of the community, the involvement of students in the doing of this is really a great accomplishment, where other districts are saying, we're deficit spending. We got to, as was pointed out, we may have to close some schools. We may have to get rid of some staff. We're barely doing staff reductions at all. I mean, we've had a couple of little clips that we've had to address, but better, we're really able to say, this is what we've decided that we want to do. We've spelled it out very, very in great detail, and we're moving in that direction. We've solicited input from the community. We've gotten not only the budget recommendations that I mentioned, but we also got lots of recommendations from the community and these committees and everything else. And now we're almost ready to put this to bed, and that will provide direction going forward for the district. And I think it's a very comprehensive job. I won't go so far as to say that I completely understand it all, but please don't come up with a third draft of this because we took this on, and we've worked through it with a lot of hard work from staff and the community in doing this, and I think it increases our credibility in the community and within the district as well. So I'm very pleased with what it is that I've seen. Thanks.
I have a couple of questions. So the first one is, where can we access the feedback provided by the by stakeholders thus far?
We did introduce that in 2 different ways. One was in the draft 1, and you heard Viva tonight have some of the feedback that was given. As for the feedback that is coming in now, what we will be doing is responding in writing on June the 13th. But first we have to compile it, so we're not quite ready for the written response. But that is part of the LCAP process. Is the superintendent must write a written response to the feedback that is given.
Can board members get, I don't know, just if you can send us an email or tell us where we can go and look at that feedback that came in and that's coming in. And then my next question is, How are we taking into account our English learners in non-Title I schools?
So let me step back a second. Title I schools are about a little over 50% of our schools in the district. For ELs in particular, what we would ask from our Title I schools is to ensure that they are addressing the needs through some of their funds that we're allocating them. One of the things that I think is forgotten, and I'm going to come back to the second question in a moment, one of the things that is really important about this process, especially at the school site, is to determine through a needs assessment and data exactly who are doing well and who are not. Because if you don't know that, you can't provide resources to the needs of your students. So the challenge at the school sites is to sit and discuss and have a needs assessment and a conversation and a frank conversation about the student groups who are not performing. And then the second question is, if we know the student groups that are not performing, what are we doing about it? And that is critical, and that's where the single plan for student achievement comes into play. But in terms of English learners, obviously you see in the LCAP our goal number 3, which addresses English learners and English support. Is that enough? Probably not. Are our English learners performing the way we want them to? No, and that's why we are highlighting them here, and we'll also see very specific metrics for them. Regardless of if you're a Title I school, if you're a non-Title I school, the same applies with what I just said, which is a school must look to see their student population and where there are gaps. And then the challenge is to try and fill those gaps through not only what we do in the LCAP, but also through Title I and also through our quality core instruction in the classroom, because bottom line is the best teaching in classrooms makes the biggest difference. Dr. Lund just suggested a few minutes ago about designated ELD training. Designated and integrated ELD training is going to be absolutely critical to fill that gap. There's no cost to that. There is cost to looking at it from a perspective of coaching. There is a cost as it affects the school sites in terms of making sure that those classrooms are doing what they're supposed to be doing and monitoring it. But I believe absolutely that if we have effective, and that is Tier 1 quality core instruction, if we have effective ELD designated and integrated in our classrooms, that gap will be filled.
But we're not looking to provide, I think I'm looking for, allocate some funds for our EL students in non-Title I schools and for our Title I students as well. And I know I brought this up before in our non-Title I schools.
And I see Mr. Moskovitz queuing up too. The LCAP, so if you look at page 25 of your slides, the LCAP, that is not inclusive of Title I specific schools. So thinking about the services of the multilingual office, the use of Elevation, newcomer support, those are services for all students who qualify as English learners based on their home language survey. And then in addition, a Title I school, that isn't part of this. So Title I is in addition to this. So these are services that are accessible and used through, in many cases, through the multilingual office, but at a non-Title I school as well as a Title I school. And then, I'm not going to get the pyramid out, but then in addition, the title services, the Title I funds, apply beyond that. Okay. Do you want to add something, Brian?
I mean, essentially that. There are other places throughout the LCAP, such as the instruction intervention coordinators. You heard Dr. Lund talk about the professional development that all teachers will receive. That includes a designated ELD. So there are places throughout that may not specifically call out English learners like it does here in Goal 3, but that will be available to all schools, Title I and non-Title
I. So I'll limit myself to 2 questions. One sort of big picture question and one school site level question that you already sort of referenced in terms of some discretionary possibilities at the school site level, Dr. Baker. But I know you were partly joking, Mr. Otto, but I think you were serious. It is riveting reading. Draft 2 is definitely riveting reading, but not everyone is able to, nor do they have the time, nor is it easy to understand sometimes, right? So the way I've always thought about the LCAP, and it's in the acronym, accountability, all right? And it's accountability to growth, to improvement, and to eliminating the equity gaps that you articulated and the team, Mr. Suarez. So the accountability piece to me is oftentimes when we hear public comment, when community engages us, when we're in spaces where these issues and challenges and topics come up, I think the frustration that I hear, the urgency that I hear, the trust I think that needs to be built or rebuilt is coming from, I think, two areas. One is that we still have these systemic, underserved subgroups of students that we need to do more of, better of, scale, whatever we want to call it, right? That the improvement, the growth, and the elimination of equity gaps, we're still not there on it. But I also think there is, for lack of a better word, that it becomes very hard to take $1.28 billion to then, how is this helping these specific students, and in what way? What actions are we taking with this funding that we're obligated to use for our most underserved students, in addition to Title I, in addition to other pots of money? So I'm saying that because I think two things stand out to me from this very comprehensive document. And let's face it, it's for compliance reasons that we put this together, but it doesn't take away from the priorities and goals that we have as a district. One is, and I think earlier today I went to the accompanying documents where there's an actual goals analysis attached to it, right? So a big picture question for me is, these are bold outcomes that we're looking for, bold increments of growth and improvement. In some cases, and I'm gonna cite draft 2 here.
Let's do it.
For our community. 16%
Wait,
all
what
student
page
growth.
are you on?
M1.2.
Okay.
Start on page 47 of the draft. 16% all student growth or improvement. M.1, 12%. And then in other areas, M1.3, 25 to 30% are outcomes, right? This is what we're looking to do. So I'd like to have, and this isn't just for you, Mr. Suarez, at some point, it's because it's hard, right? Right now we have this document, we're not gonna go through, and why did we pick 12 for this one and 16 for this one? But to me, the more important thing is these outcome targets require actions to be taken. And when the actions are either not achieving the desired outcome or not doing it within the 3-year framing that we need here, that's where these goals analysis come in. So my first question is around, can we have a little sense of context of planned actions versus the actual implemented actions that get us to these goals? Because the goals analysis to me is like, this is where the rubber hits the road, right? How are we achieving these things? And then we know, okay, is that enough money, Dr. Baker, to achieve that? Or is the professional development, the trainings, the cross-pollination, is that in and of itself going to be enough to get us toward this 3-year goal? So just a broad conversation around planned actions versus the actual implemented actions that require this. Context is, we are spending more money to achieve these things than we are taking in revenues on. And we have 9 areas here. So just a broad, how do we account for our ability? You use the term a lot, the phrasing a lot, you used it again today, coherence, Dr. Baker. So can we talk about that big piece so then I can follow up with my, okay, what does this mean at a school site level question?
I don't know if this is the answer, Dr. Benitez, but what I will say is in listening to you as a board talk about your the connection to board goals and just wanting the community to understand the LCAP, one of the things that I am aware of is that when you complete a document that is required, it doesn't allow you to represent things in a way that is in some ways in a simpler state. And so in not really answering what you're asking, but suggesting that we think about relative to the board goals, that at some point, and perhaps it's workshop content this summer, there's more of a focus on the programs and services that aim in big areas of our work. So when we think about K-3 literacy, rather than trying to line item and go back into the pages of the LCAP now, you want to know from the boardroom to the classroom, what are the efforts that we're making in a coherent way to address K-3 literacy, especially for our Black and Brown students who have been underserved. You want to know in the middle years, how are we accelerating? You want to know the approaches to A through G more from a programmatic perspective is what I think you're asking about. And I'll just suggest that, well, tonight especially, but also in the format that this comes in, I don't think that we have an opportunity to say it that way, but it's great feedback for us to think about how do we share a coherent program building that actually goes into budget development, not just line items that are single initiatives that don't contribute to the bigger goals that you all have set, that are in our vision and that are in our strategic plan. So it doesn't answer it tonight, but it's giving me some ideas, and I'm sure that the team will also be able to reflect on that as a way to come back, both for you and for our community, so that they can see their feedback, the priorities that have been set, and they can see our response to the brutal facts, as we call them, in terms of our students' needs and our precise attention to those student needs.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. And I think, I'm thinking back to a community issues forum that Cal State Long Beach and LBUSD partnered in, I think 2004, on A through G completion rate. I've probably known Lilia Ocampo for 12, 15 years now, all right? And she's talking about emerging bilinguals. She's talking about literacy. And again, not in the same context or with the same framing, but our Cambodian community members, when are we going to do a dual immersion program in Khmer, all right? So I don't want it to go unnoticed that when we engage in your thinking, that I also want to be able to share with folks, not just here's what we're doing, because I think there's a fine line between, but we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this, then why are we still talking about these eliminating equity gaps, right? If we're funding the priorities and we're taking actions and we can point to very specific things, it oftentimes, my perspective, falls on deaf ears because we're still hearing some of the same frustrations, some of the same perspectives, in spite of us making improvements and growth in certain areas during certain times. COVID sort of wiped out a lot of the progress that we were making, but now we're, again, 2 years removed, if we can really say that. And so I, as a board member, also want to be able to say to folks, because I don't feel good about saying, if someone comes to me and saying, I'll be in a CAC space. And we still have issues with our IEP, whether it's interpretation, whether it's the developing of goals, whether it's feeling pressured to sign off on goals that I don't really understand. And I can talk about all day and night, and we've all been in this position. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we improved. Here's what we did, the recommendations. But it doesn't really get to, I think, the bigger question that you articulated so well, that there is no answer, right, to it. But it's the nuance on obviously we're doing a lot. Obviously we're taking 1.28 billion to the furthest that we possibly can. I think the variance for me is, are our actions, are our budget allocations resulting in what we all aspire and hope to do? And I'm saying that, Dr. Baker, not as a referendum on things, but that's why we have public comment. That's why we receive thousands of emails, right? Because we haven't figured it out, and no one has at this point. So I want to ask a school site question, because we all represent different constituencies and different folks. Reach out to us.
Let me share just one thing that I also, an awareness that, and in bringing the draft to you all for review, we don't have an opportunity usually to talk about what has been taken out, what we have, just in summary, stopped doing to make space for new priorities. So in some of your briefing materials that aren't in the LCAP, you heard about like the investment in instruction and intervention coordinators at all schools, K through 8, so that English learners, Black students who are not yet achieving, others who need intervention are supported. That required taking something out. In order to have wellness centers in all of our high schools and our middle schools, that required taking something out. In addition, we have reduced funding, but it also requires decisions to be more intentional, to use research-based practices. So when I look at the things that are in the English learner supports, these are almost all new supports for English learners that are research-based, that have practices built into them with data analysis that are new. And what I'm going to say is not an excuse. It is that we don't talk about what is not there and what we're replacing, and the persistence with new programming and new methodology that it takes then to see something work. So anyway, I'm
going to toss it right back up to you, Dr. Baker, because that's exactly where I was going with the school site example. Because we're not funding everything at the same level anymore, right? Because we're redirecting, reprioritizing, reconceptualizing those things that we think are working or will work. So again, and this goes out to, I'm just going to give shout outs, the Chan Hobsons of the world, the Marta Cotas of the world, right, that have been there throughout this whole time, holding us accountable to a plan that's supposed to hold our community's us accountable to our community's priorities. So at the school site level, and it's a discretion question, to what extent then do schools, and I'm going to pick one, Brian, you're going to remember these emails from Chavez. Schools also have, and I just want to get a sense of to what level or to what extent, discretion over, I'm going to use a trivial one, Brian, from Chavez. Are we going to provide support for library media stuff or for literacy, right? Because it's also around, okay, if we're going to hear, and our community is going to say, we need more librarians, we need more X, Y, Z. Okay, does that then mean we cannot provide for the majority of the students at Chavez the literacy support that's needed? And so there are things, Dr. Baker, and I want you to sort of talk through that we're not either funding anymore, things that we're not allowing for schools to have discretion on, where they may have had discretion because we had one-time funds or what have you, that is nuanced by school needs, by school community, because I think I want to reaffirm most of the magic happens at the school site level, and we still have, and I'm not blaming us, it's part of our systemic structural deficit, very low participation on school site councils. Low participation rate, where many times it's school site councils that end up making those decisions. But then we have engagement from parents saying, why don't we have this at our school? Why didn't this happen at our school? But there is still a disconnect with all the important work that's being done around community engagement. This doesn't necessarily translate to, again, I'm making up, Chavez or Edison or Lincoln, accounting for what that community may already be engaged in, may already want. And so when we talk about it from up here, Lincoln had a wonderful literacy fair 2 weeks ago. And they had funding, but also organizations leveraged, partner organization. It took staff to be there. It took a lot of stuff. That's what the Lincoln community wanted. So can you speak to the school site level aspect of what you just shared from a big picture perspective?
So I can kick off and then maybe some more granular examples. So in a simple way to describe, so all schools, and this was a community priority, and Viva spoke to the different aspects of community input around wanting schools to have an allocation of LCFF funds. So if you look at your LCAP summary, you're going to see that there are significant funds, about $10 million that are allocated to all schools for LCFF use. That is fairly unrestricted. That means that a school can determine that they want to use that for tutoring, for enrichment, for something that happens during the school day or after the school day. Title I schools also have jurisdiction over their resources that are allocated based on per pupil and the district's funding source that goes out to school site councils. And I'm just saying those two things because they're meant for different purposes. The LCFF is a different need than Title I, but schools do have jurisdiction over that. I think a lot of what we hear is around implementation and communication. And so I can think about family literacy engagement, some of the newer work out of Equity Engagement and Partnerships Office that is really trying to plant seeds of parent leadership, the Family Leadership Institute, parenting partners, so that, and it's a dotted line, so that more parents participate, so that there's more engagement in school site council, so that there's more two-way communication at a school. But that doesn't show, in the way I'm describing it, doesn't necessarily show up in the LCAP in the question that you're asking. So, Ann, did anyone want to add school experiences, David or Brian? Do you want to share anything that's more specific?
Yeah, I mean, I think something that's resonating with me in this conversation. So we've talked in here for a number of years with AJ Crabehill talking about 1 or 2, no more than 4 goals. And we have board goals that we're really highlighting. This is what we're going to be about. And we talk about targeted universalism. If we focus on these things, it will help all of our students. And then we have this document from the state that has 9 goals and 82 metrics and whatever Jim said, right? That is almost like the opposite of what Mr. Crabehill would recommend. Part of what I think what we're about is what are those key goals that we can focus on? And then what are those research-based levers that are most likely going to get us to achieve those goals? And it's not everything. And there are going to be individuals who will say, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? We can't do everything with a finite amount of resources. So then we say, what are the key levers, research-based levers, that are going to most likely get us to those? And then there are we do have additional funds that we can say, and here's the additional money that your school receives, LCFF, Title I, that your school site council can say, okay, in our unique experience, in our unique situation, what might that be? We might have 1 more day of a library media assistant here because we think that's important. We might have enough money that we're going to add a couple days of counseling time because we think that's important. But as a district, we're looking at the key levers that are throughout this entire document. But when we start talking about like 4 board goals versus 92 metrics, it starts getting really confusing. How are we going to do all of those things? So I think in this space, we'll keep coming back with our student outcomes focused governance to say, like, what are we doing around these 4 goals? Really focusing in as a system. How are we aligning our resources? And all of those resources will also show up in the LCAP. So it's just something that I'm sitting with as I hear Dr. Benitez, like, how do we make sense of both of those? And I think sometimes when we hear the individual request from somebody of the community, and they don't see that individual thing, there might be a perception that we're not addressing their need. It's just showing up in a different way in effort to achieve our board goals and other goals. That's something I'm thinking. Mr. Zaid or anyone else? No?
You asked the question about metrics, and we have a phenomenal research team that helps to inform everything we do, including the metrics in the LCAP. It is incumbent on us to set really high goals, and goal setting is an imprecise science. And so I'll leave it at that. When you think, you ask the question, like, why 30%? Well, we have statisticians, we have a team that is like just smarter than anybody I know as a team. And even for them, so you heard a number of times like gap closure, reduction, rather than just setting whole goals that don't really talk about the gap reduction, like really thinking about that. But even that is an imprecise science. And so these are high-level aims and that we will be working towards, but there's not, for every one of them, there's not an exact science behind it.
Okay.
So if we took $1.2 billion and divided it by 84, the number of schools that we have, it comes out to about $1,428,571. I don't think it would be a good way to do things, because we have to be, I'm not going to use the word I was going to use, we have to be smart about the way we do this. My reaction to some of this is, don't shoot the messenger. You know, what we're trying to do is move from a world where a bunch of people got in a room and made all these decisions that didn't involve anybody, to a world where we invite everybody in and make sure that they're there so that they can tell us what they want. And that's the real achievement here, that what we're doing is we're not just listening to student voice and community voice, but we're really saying, and by the way, we think that if that's what you want, this is the best way to get it. And when I say don't shoot the messenger, you know, we can't say that this is bad until we try it, although obviously we will be measured by the results that we get and whether the equity gaps are lessened, because we've said very clearly that that's what our goals are. I mean, that's what we're trying to do here. And we know what the demographics of the district are, and we're owning that, and we've invited people in. Is everybody there? Can they participate? No, but not because we don't want them to, but we're working hard at it, and I think it's to be, you know, we're not done. We're at the beginning, but it's a good beginning.
Just I don't know if there are any other questions, but I appreciate that our team always starts with the image of a year-round process. And what I'll add to that is, when I think about our community partners in the district English Learner Advisory Committee, in groups that are partners to us, CAC being a large group, the Long Beach Education Connection. This is also about a relationship with groups that care about students. And it's not a one-time event. We do, of course, just like the state has to pass a budget, we have to pass a budget. But I love the graphic that you, me, and Renee always go back to. This is a year-round process, and it is about communication. It is about constant cycles of taking input and working with our school sites. We've got some ideas this year for enhancement to the school site councils and how to bring those who are not staff alongside our staff to really think about what it looks like to be an effective school site council. So I always want to come back to that, because sometimes this feels like an event to our community, and it's not an event. It is 12 months worth of working together that always has opportunities for partnership, for listening to the voice of students, and for our families in their schools. And in many ways, there are adjustments that can be made, not necessarily at a large scale. You know, we have the teachers that we have for the year. We have more counselors than ever than we've had. But there are ways for minor adjustments, and there are definitely ways to continue to listen and to learn from the lived experience of our families in schools, including when they're frustrated and not feeling like they're being heard. And so I want to affirm that and thank the people that have given all the different kinds of input, and know that we will continue to walk with our families and their students throughout the year.
Well, I think that's a wonderful note to end the budget and LCAP discussion on, a note of gratitude, because clearly there's a lot of work that goes into this. So I believe we're ready to go on. We're ready to move on. But thank you, everyone, not just for the presentation, but for that 12 months of work that goes into it. Let's see. So report of board members, and we will start with Axel.
Good evening, everyone. I'll keep my report brief. As we move on to the end of the year. There are a lot of emotions going around: excitement, anxiousness, fear for what's for ahead. And as we move on to the next chapter, I would like to thank the senior team and the Board of Education for teaching me on district governance and how to represent my peers. This opportunity for being a student board member has been life-changing towards me, and it's taught me a lot of things, and that's something that I won't take for granted. That's something that I'll use as my foundation as I go on to Columbia, but it's something that I really appreciated. I would like to mention that I am honored to have served as your second student board member and the second student board member from Jordan. Though it's definitely a very huge accomplishment for Jordan, especially since we're definitely trying to change the narrative of the high school. I would also like to congratulate the class of 2024. They have been through the ringer, especially considering since they've been through the pandemic and they still had to deal with the lingering effects in their sophomore year. But now that we moved on to our junior and senior year, we've definitely blossomed into the most wonderful people that we could be. I also like to congratulate the Jordan High School class of 2024. They've had 13 valedictorians this year, including me, so I'd definitely like to shout them out. With all of that said, it takes a community to get to where we are right now, and that could be definitely proven for all of us who are here today. I'd like to thank my friends for making the lows bearable and the highs higher, my family for all their love and sacrifice to get me to where I am right now, my teachers for teaching me all the valuable things that I've learned across the years, the administration for running the schools that I've been to, and the schools across all the district, and my mentors for teaching me invaluable things that I'll take with me for the rest of my life. I'd like to thank you all, and this concludes my board report. Thank you.
Mr. Miller.
Well, this is unfair.
Who do you want to thank?
Right, right. No, I will try and be very, very brief here. First, I just wanted to congratulate the team who put together is this our second annual Black Grad? Second annual Black Grad. I've spoke to it once before, but I'll share again. When you're talking about not only uplifting a community culturally, but also celebrating those from that community in a unified front. And, it was an awesome event. My daughter was having maybe a little bit too much fun, and I had to leave a little early, unfortunately. But all things considered, it was historic. Yeah, I mean, I thought the first one was good, but the second one was impressive. And so I just wanted to thank the entire team for creating a moment that I hope that our 2024 graduates, our African-American graduates in particular, never forget. To have these moments of celebration in the Black community. Unfortunately, at least for previous generations, were far and few between. And so for the district and for our students in particular who graduated this year to get an opportunity to celebrate together about not only the positive achievement of graduating from the Long Beach Unified School District, but just all of the things that they had to go through as students. You brought up earlier about being our pandemic students, right? I'm just very, very appreciative of those moments of celebration. And so I'm just very, very pleased at the district for creating that space for our Black students in particular. And so I wanted to give a big shout out to all of those who helped with the planning and celebration as a whole. To that, for those that know me from a personal level, know that I am a big supporter and endorser of mentorship, not just because of me being in a program that was centered around mentorship, but I just have seen the power of young people having mentors that can act as a catalyst to helping them take their lives and their let's call it vocational aspirations to the next level. And so one of the programs that I often endorse, and I'll endorse again, is Operation Jumpstart for all of their great work. They have been a partner with the Long Beach Unified School District for 30 years now. To that, they are doing their graduation this weekend over at the Long Beach Yacht Club, where, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to have 40 Long Beach Unified graduates, either graduating from the Long Beach Unified School District and or graduating from Long Beach City College, and I think some folks from Long Beach State. But these are all students who are first-generation students who are really the young men and young women that we bring up in regards to our board goals. But this is us utilizing some of that social capital, not necessarily finances to support our students, but this is us partnering with organizations like Operation Jumpstart to help us accomplish those goals. And so I am excited to celebrate with them this Saturday over at the Yacht Club, as I don't have a yacht. So this is not a place where I frequent often, but I definitely enjoy celebrating in the space. Last but definitely not least, we're going into the summer. And it's an exciting time. We've had prom season that just finished. Everybody was looking all swanky and fancy. You've had your graduations, which were super celebratory. You've had an opportunity to smile and hang out with your friends. And then for me, I'd be honest, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring up that the summers for me bring a little bit of anxiety, especially when you talk about the neighborhoods that I grew up in. As the summer, or when we see the highest number of violence. The summers are when we see our young people who don't have a summer program to go to start to interact with gangs or drugs or some of the more nefarious parts of life. And so I would ask anyone who is watching, how many did you say we had today, Doug? Tens of thousands today watching? Probably about tens of thousands. Yeah. Yo, is it close to 1 million today? Great, man. Geesh, okay. So I would ask any of those folks who are watching who have young people to not only continue to keep them involved in positive programs like I've brought up Freedom School or the YMCA or sports, but more importantly, let's be safe this summer. As once again, it just always brings me a little bit of anxiety and concern, and I want to make sure that I bring to the forefront not only is my concern warranted, unfortunately, when it comes to our community, but there's plenty of services out there to support. Yesterday at the city council meeting, the City of Long Beach's Department of Health Services did a presentation centered around violence prevention, and I couldn't be more proud of our partnership with them in those efforts. And they are working very hard to not only reduce the acts of violence that happen in the summer, but more importantly, keeping our kids active during the summer. And they have a list of different opportunities in regards to internships or free programs or lunch at the park so that our kids can stay active and doing things that are positive and hopefully keeping them safe, in contrast to some of the things that we've seen in the past. So I would ask and implore those families and family members that as we look at the last few days of the school year coming to an end, please, please, please not only find a safe opportunity for your kids, but let's continue to put them in productive opportunities as well, as we know that the summers are feeding ground for some of the less fortunate things that happen in our city. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. I think that's a really good message, and I appreciate your concern for our students during the summer. Dr. Benitez.
Yeah, just 2 items for me, Madam President. And we got a bunch of promotions and graduations continuing these next couple of weeks. So had a ton of fun at our classified employee appreciation celebration last week. Just want to give another shout out to our plant supervisor at Browning, Michael DeFore, for being named our LBUSD classified employee of the year. A lot of fun and again, a lot of good stuff happening in our district. I already referenced it. There was a literacy fair 2 weekends ago at Lincoln Elementary School. So just big congratulations and thank you to all the community partners that made that event possible. I'm not going to list them all, but AOC7 and many, many dozens of other community partners. Big shout out to the Lincoln staff for always stepping up around those community engagement, community building events, and to all of the community, the Lincoln community and beyond. I think this is the first year in my memory that it's been at a school. Normally it's at a park. So it was awesome to have a citywide literacy fair at one of our elementary schools. So again, a big congratulations and thank you to all the community partners that made that possible, and to all of the folks that showed up and to the Lincoln staff and community. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Otto, and I do expect your report in Italian.
It won't be in Italian. Actually, all I want to report tonight is, in the face of this very deep discussion that we had, is that about 18 months ago, I was going to track practice with my grandson at Wilson, who was transitioning from football, where he wasn't big enough, although he was a very good football player, into becoming a track athlete. And he decided that his race would be the 800 meter race, or 880-yard race. And I remember going to a meet, and I think he ran a 2:20 or something like that, and I thought, this kid has got some real good potential. I talked to my buddy Ron Alice, who I've known forever and was a coach here in Everwoods, and 2 weeks ago, that same grandson placed second in the state in the 800 and ran a 150.2 and ran on the four-man 400 race, and they came in first in the state. Wilson boys were number 2 in the state. Wilson girls were number 1 in the state. And even though I wasn't at that meet, I was a long ways away. I felt like we were all bursting with pride as a family. There were a lot of emails that were going around, and so that is a good counterpoint to all the things that we talked about tonight. And this is part of what education is, and what you can achieve and share, and helps you build a community. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Ms. Lopez?
I'll be super brief. So as we're getting ready to approach the end of another academic school year, I'd like to say a few words to our students, our parents, and our educators. So start actually with our educators. I just want to thank our educators for their dedication, their commitment, their creativity. They've worked tirelessly, I think, all year, and I want them to know that their efforts have not gone unnoticed, and we're profoundly grateful for for all that they do. To our parents, I want to thank them for their partnership. Their dedication to their child's education is certainly instrumental to their success. And finally, to the 2024 graduates. So as you embark, students, in your new journey, remember the lessons that you've learned, the friendships that you've formed, and the dreams that fuel your aspirations. Good luck in the next chapter in your life. I hope you enjoy the summer. I hope that you relax. And I hope that you rest, because you all deserve it. And thank you to everyone here, because this has been another great year. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, I'm not going to be brief, I'm sorry. I want to mention a few things. So first, I want to thank the ground education partners that we have. They're in, I think they're currently in about 20 of our schools, and then that's going to grow to about 30 of our elementary schools. And so I was at MacArthur Elementary, and there was a 5th grade class. And so Ground Education is an organization that comes in and they do an outdoor class presentations. And so during this class, they were asking the kids to reflect on what they've learned through ground education from, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And so some of the things that the kids talked about was respecting the earth, farm to table, solar oven, owl pellets, the water cycle. And what I heard from one of the ground education teachers was that we're growing environmental stewards of tomorrow. And one of the many silver linings is that the ground education program is actually leading to higher scores on the SBAC in science. So I think that would be interesting to have a look at data as far as schools with ground education versus schools that don't have ground education. That might be something interesting to see. And then at another one of our elementary schools at Bircham, they held a STEAM family night. So I'd like to thank the teachers and volunteers for being at school in the evening, so after a long school day, being at school in the evening and inviting the families to come and bring their kids and be involved in different activities like stomp rockets. And Sato was there actually, and they had they did a drone soccer presentation, and I actually participated, which I was hesitant to do because, as I told the kids, I didn't grow up playing video games. The only game available at the time when I was a kid was Pong, and Axel, you'll have no idea what this is, but
We talked about Pong last time.
I know, but I can't help it. But that's my frame of reference, and so but they made me do it. And it was fun. And by the way, I scored a goal. So, right? I mean, that's impressive. Anyhow, so let's see. Milliken held a night market. So congratulations. This was all student-led. Students did all the planning, put it all together. It was fabulous. There was music, food. The Filipino club was selling lumpia, and the Kumai club, beef sticks. Japanese club, spam musubi. There was music and dance presentations from the different clubs, different types of dance. Really fabulous night. Also at Lakewood High School, they did a culture fair, and that was all student-led. So we have incredible students and incredible teachers. That's what I'm trying to get at. We talked about our Black student graduation. That was fabulous. The classified employee celebration. Thank you to all the volunteers. It takes a lot of people to work on that. Congratulations again to Mr. Michael DeFore. Very popular guy, because when they announced his name, people were going wild. So very popular guy. And then at the 3rd annual Student Support Services Symposium, there were 3 special people honored. Counselor of the Year, Michelle Koga from Hughes and Stevens. Psychologist of the Year, Loanne Went from Cabrillo. Also from Cabrillo, the Social Worker of the Year, Ida Ramos. So a lot of wonderful celebrations that we're wrapping up a school year. But I also wanted to mention June is Pride Month. And so this is our opportunity to express our support for the LGBTQ community. So happy Pride Month, everybody. And then also it's graduation season. Celebrate responsibly. I know for kids there's a temptation to go all out, but we just want everybody to be safe and be around for the next chapter in their lives. So let's move on to the superintendent report.
I was crossing things off of my list as they were spoken, so I will not repeat anything. So thank you for all of the affirmations and celebrations that you shared tonight. I'll add with a few and then turn back to Mrs. Craighead. This week, were notified that we are the recipient of a $12 million Golden State Pathways program grant from the state. Really, really good news. Want to thank Dr. Lund and his team and the Office of Curriculum, Instruction, and Professional Development for their work to submit the grant. It will have an incredible impact on our dual enrollment programming with additional counseling, looking at externships, work-based learning experiences, and really elevating the work that we want to do with our A through G goals as well as dual enrollment. So just excited about what is to come with the use of the Golden State Pathways Program grant. Building on something that was said, we have 28 locations where meals will be served this summer. And so for our community, and we also have dozens of school sites that will be used for summer programming from elementary schools to high schools. And so just want the community to know there are 28 locations where meals will be served and lots of programming going on. So if they're not aware, they can go to their school office and ask what is available, if not in their immediate school, in the local area for them. And then also our district will have a presence at the Juneteenth celebration on Saturday, June 15th. Although June 19th is a school holiday or a district holiday, the celebration will have a booth and be participating as sponsors in all of the fun and joy that goes on for students and families at the Juneteenth celebration. And yes, lastly, let me echo the sentiments about our graduates. Our 2024 graduates, we had a class that graduated tonight up at CAMS, tomorrow Sato, and then the lion's share of our students will be involved in their ceremonies next week. So we hope for safe and joyful celebrations across our city. I know you will be out and about. We will all be out and about. And a special shout out to Axel, our student board member. So in fact, yes, Mrs. Craighead is going to do a special thing in honor of your last board meeting, Axel. So here we go.
Yes, so tonight I'd like to adjourn in honor of Axel Aguilar. And I'm not going to say much because it's emotional, but before we adjourn, I want to present Axel with this plaque. And it's a beautiful plaque with a picture of Axel and the rest of the board. So let's give Axel a standing ovation for all of his participation and help.
So you say a few words.
I would just like to thank you all again for for your support. I really appreciated this opportunity. I know it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that not a lot of students get, but I am deeply appreciative of all that I've done and all that I've been able to do as a result of you guys. So thank you so much.
Axel, we have been impressed with you. We care about you so much, and we just wish you all the best. We know you're going to Columbia. You have a full ride. You are going to be so amazing. So in your honor, we will adjourn this evening, but thank you so much for your service because you have given a lot of your time, and we appreciate all that you've done. So with that, thank you, everyone. Thank you for sticking with us. I know it's late, but this meeting is adjourned.